This is going to go well.
It's not going to go well. How Rebecca syndrome has been co-opted. Rebecca syndrome has been co-opted by the manosphere to shame women. And this Rebecca syndrome comes from the movie Rebecca, which is a fantastic movie about a woman.
What was her name?
Her name was not Rebecca. Rebecca is the wife's name, is the wife.
The wife.
Wife's name.
The late wife, yeah.
And how this beautiful woman marries a widower. The guy is dead, and the new woman thinks that Rebecca, the first wife of the guy, is his love, his true love, and she's like obsessed with the first wife who's dead. This
is women being jealous of previous partners.
Jealous of being previous partners.
That was quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. I know. This is what you do. This is what you do for a living. I'm just a clown. This is a really bad show. Anyway, but the truth is, women are incredibly jealous. They're jealous if you don't, even if you don't. Number one, they're incredibly jealous of everybody and everything. Somebody looks at you. If they're not that way, then they don't really love you. The second thing is that women like to know that a man has a wife who was good in order for them to be interested in you. They need to be I think it's self-confirmed or something. Confirmed.
Doesn't sound like self-confirmed, does it?
No,
it's someone else to do it.
Right. They want to know that you're a player. Men don't want to know that their girlfriends are players, but with Louis Schaefer, they want to know, was any other woman, did you have any other girlfriends? Was there any? This is what they want to know. Because and this third point is, they're always asking their friends, should I be going out with him? Is he good enough to go out?
Adam, any take on this one?
No, I agree with Lewis, weirdly. Yeah.
We can move on to this one. Adam, the Daily Star Sunday, and your perfume is wanted by a zoo. Why? It's already been tested.
Yeah. From the Daily Star on Sunday, Chessington Zoo wants unwanted Christmas perfume for its animals. So the reason why Chessington Zoo's put out this plea, they want to create a sensory experience for some of the animals, which includes getting these sprays to help help the animals basically develop their cognitive functions, things like that.
It's a boots shop.
It's a weird story. I don't know who's got lying around expensive perfumes to donate to Chessington Zoo.
Women do.
But they're not going to donate it, are they? They're going to keep it all on one shelf and never wear any of them. And
this is what's called clickbait, number one. It's in the Daily Star. You don't know if it's true, but it's in the Daily Star, which I happen to like, but it's in the Daily Star. The truth is, they need the Daily Star. They need the perfume because animals stink. They stink. And this is Chessington. It's a zoo, but it's more like an amusement park, right?
A lot of animals eat their food uncooked, don't they?
They don't put the animals on the rides, though. I don't think it's like that. I love the idea of, like, at some point, there'll be two dogs that meet each other, nip round the back to have a smell and go, wow, that is pretty good. What is that? Like, it's a Hugo Boss?
And you hope they're the same species. Is that what you're saying?
Well, either way, I feel sorry for dogs. Their way of greeting is to smell the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh, and their sense of smell is 200 times better than ours. Oh, I wouldn't like doing it, and I can't smell as good as a dog.
So you're saying, Adam and Steve, this is just a way for the zoo to keep the animals entertained.
Not entertained, just from smelling another animal's bottom. I think that's
weird. That's entertained.
Yeah. I mean, would you donate some fragrance to a zoo?
I absolutely would not. No, I don't. I mean, cologne's expensive. You know.
I don't wear perfume. I don't shampoo my hair.
You do have probably the strongest scent out of the three of us, Lewis.
What, for other people or for myself?
No, you have the strongest. I mean, it's the mouth and it's the pits and.
Well, that's not from brushing my teeth. My teeth.
No, I know.
What we're saying is you should go to Chessington because the animals would have a great time sniffing.
Yeah.
It's a sensory experience.
You'd be the ultimate sensory experience.
Well, thank you very much for that. The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Sunday's front pages. We start with the Sunday Telegraph. Net zero grocery tax to push up food bills. The Sun on Sunday, free to kill, 3 warnings over Christmas market maniac. The Express has cuts force HMS Queen Elizabeth out of action. The Observer goes with ministers resist rush to block Musk millions going to Farage. The Mail on Sunday. The Grinch Reeves steals 45% of your donations, say charities. And finally, the Daily Star Sunday goes with Ronnie Cray killed Marilyn Monroe. It's in the Daily Star, so Lewis likes it. That's it for tonight. Thank you to my guest, Leo Kearse, will be here tomorrow. If you're watching at breakfast, stay exactly where you are. Breakfast on the way next. Till the next one, have a good one.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We're looking ahead to Christmas after a cold and very windy day on Sunday. The weather does look like it's settling down towards Christmas itself, and for all of us feeling a good deal milder. But before we get there, we still have this area low pressure close by. Note the tightly packed isobars indicating some very windy weather, especially across more northern and western parts. We do have warnings in force throughout Sunday, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, we'll see plenty of showers moving in, especially across more northern parts where we'll see some of the showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground. So we could just see a little bit of ice around first thing on Sunday, but for most, really, Sunday is going to be a day of sunshine and scattered showers. The far north of Scotland, however, we could just see a longer spell of rain arriving here, and again, that could potentially be a bit of a mix of rain, sleet and snow. But back to showers really for Northern Ireland and Northern England. Again, across the high ground, easily going to be falling as sleet and snow. Similar story for Wales, but I think for many southern parts of England, any showers will be falling mainly as rain. And then moving towards the afternoon, very little changes. I think the best of the brightest weather will be across parts of East Anglia and the southeast of England. And for all of us, with the winds coming in from the northwest, it's going to be feeling a bitterly cold day. Could still see gales or severe gales in the north, and factor in the strength of the wind. Temperatures on a thermometer could get up as high as 7 degrees, but probably close to freezing for some of us as you add on that wind. So Monday starts off pretty cold, could see a widespread frost, but some sunshine to greet us as we start the week. But as we go through the course of the day, cloud and outbreaks of rain arrive in from the west, and that's going to herald the milder theme as we head towards Christmas Day itself. But unfortunately, it's going to come with a lot of clouds, so for most of us, it's going to be a grey Christmas this year rather than a white one.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
A very good morning to you. The whole of Germany stands in dark hours with the people of Magdeburg.
4 adults and a 9-year-old child were killed, with more than 200 other people injured.
And the 50-year-old man accused of their murder has now been remanded into custody.
Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, has been called a Christmas Grinch because it's been revealed that her budget means that 45 pence in every pound that you donate to charity is effectively going to the taxman.
And the cost of the Green Dream, a new grocery tax designed to achieve the government's net zero targets, will push up household shopping bills by a whopping £1.4 billion a year.
In Britain's rural capital of food, guess where that is? Bakers are working tirelessly to ensure that every dinner table has a traditional pork pie for Christmas Day. Our reporter Will Hollis has been meeting the communities making them.
And as animal rights campaigners target festive trail hunts, we are asking today, should we ban the activity?
The dust-up in the desert did not disappoint. Tyson Fury failed, though, in his bid for revenge against undisputed world heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk, losing on a unanimous decision in Riyadh. We'll have all the reaction from a thrilling contest throughout the morning.
Good morning. It's a cold and blustery day for most of us today, but temperatures are on the rise as we approach Christmas Day. Find out all the weather details with me coming up a little later on.
A very good morning to you. It's just gone 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm Martin Daubney.
Yes, you can barely believe it, can you? I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast. It's interesting talking about pork pies on Christmas Day, because I am sitting next to somebody who's worked in a pork pie factory.
I have. In fact, I owe a lot of my success to pork pie.
Oh, do you?
Such as it is. Yeah, I worked at Pork Farms in Nottingham as a kid, and it was 12-hour shifts, packing pork pies endlessly. And if you did 12 hours and you're still standing, a lot of people used to fall asleep while working.
Oh, my goodness.
You got an extra 4 hours, 16 hours. I was clearing 800 quid a week. Cash.
Wow.
In 1990, as a student,
Wow.
I worked at the pork pie factory all summer, every summer, never took any time off. And guess what? Never took a single penny out in student loans.
Oh, wow.
Worked my way through uni, thanks to pork pie.
That is...
Yeah.
So,
Although you got your fees paid for, though, don't forget. You know, it was in that era, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
In that era. Yeah.
I earned my crust.
Oh, very nicely done. You said that the contest last night, the big boxing match, was very exciting.
It was.
I've heard other people back there in the newsroom saying it was actually very lacklustre.
No, I disagree. I thought it was better than the first fight, actually.
Oh.
I did, yeah. I thought it was fantastic. I really did. I don't think it was
It went full...
Yeah, it did,
rounds.
and that surprised me actually, because I thought that with the weight he was carrying, I thought the intention was to get the job done early, because it's a risk carrying that sort of weight throughout the contest, because it's a hell of a duration. You need to show real endurance against somebody as sprightly and somebody as mobile as Alexander Usyk. But he didn't. I don't think he won the fight, as some people think. But I don't think it was a unanimous decision. I thought Usyk won it by that much. But I thought the overall level of the fight was slightly better, and it's another one in the eye for those people who think the big bloke always wins. It's nonsense. It's about speed, skill, mobility, dexterity, and heart, and that's exactly what Usyk had it.
End of the line for Fury?
No, not necessarily. I think possibly as a belt winner, but why wouldn't you fight Anthony Joshua? There's money. There's a huge check. He could earn more from fighting Anthony Joshua with an all British fight than he did in either of the Usyk fights, because people still want to see it.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be one of those fights that we see years later than it should have happened. It's already long overdue. It needs to happen in the next year.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah, while he's bankable.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Right, remarkable, indeed.
OK, well, that's what happened overnight in the boxing ring. But let's go back to our top story, which, of course, is still so sad, isn't it? Following the devastating attack at the Christmas market in the German city of Magdeburg. Now, the Saudi Arabian government are claiming that they repeatedly warned the country's authorities about the man now suspected of driving a car right into the crowds.
Yeah, German media are reporting that the man's identity as Taleb al-Abdel-Mosen, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor, the German's interior minister says holds Islamophobic views.
Well, the suspect has been arrested and he remains under investigation on suspicion of murder, attempted murder, and causing bodily harm. And
with 200 injured and 5 dead, including, sadly, a 9-year-old girl, Germany faces a Christmas mourning its loss.
Homeside concerns have been raised in the likes of Birmingham, for instance, where their Christmas market security is being reviewed. In London, the Met are warning the public to stay vigilant in wake of Friday's attack. How do you stay vigilant? I mean, if you watch the terrible video that was circulating on the internet on this, how could you save yourself from that? You can't.
You can't. It just
So
happens.
there weren't enough seconds to take in what's happened before you've been hit.
Precisely. And joining us now to discuss this, the former senior military intelligence officer, Philip Ingram. Philip, always a pleasure to have your company on GB News. The world is mourning, and now, of course, the questions are being asked about how this terror attack was allowed to happen in the first place. And, of course, all eyes seem to be on a lapse of security. A lapse of security, it appears, around an emergency vehicle entrance. This individual clearly knew the area. It seems he spec'd it out and took advantage of that critical weakness.
It seems just that, you know, the security around what we call publicly accessible locations, and Christmas markets in Germany have been targeted beforehand. You know, the security around those has been upped for a number of years, but you should not have entrances which allow vehicles to come in at speed without some form of control on them. And the Christmas markets around the UK, you know, for those that are concerned about them, I know put an awful lot of effort into making sure that these sorts of things cannot happen.
You know, when the police say that you've got to be a member of the public has got to be vigilant, what does that really mean? Does it mean anything?
It does, and you know, vigilance isn't going to stop someone who's found a weakness in the protected surround to a public accessible location, drives a car at high speed into it. Vigilance comes into anything else where you get this gut feeling that something's wrong. Because very often your gut feeling is very right in what it's doing, and it's wider than just this sort of incident. So it covers, you know, anything where people think things are wrong within the local community, within where they are, when they're out, and if you get that gut feeling, either get away from the place or report it to the authorities. That's what the authorities want. They will then sift through that and try and understand why your gut feeling's saying that, and whether understanding whether the individual's working alone or working as part of a wider group of people. So to try and reduce the threat that's there, and then get into the individual motivations and try to see if there's anything you can pick up from that would have allowed you to identify the individual as an attacker beforehand, and identify others that may be motivated in the same way. Now, it's clear that from the reports that we're getting that the Saudi authorities have tried to warn the German authorities. You know, I've lived in Germany. I've carried out intelligence operations in Germany, and it's a very, very difficult environment because of the different layers of intelligence organizations that there are across Germany who don't talk to each other. In the UK, we're very lucky because whether it's the local police, whether it's the counter-terror police who act on a national basis, everyone talks to each other. So we're in a much better position than Germany is, and it's shocking, this.
I mean, a lot of our viewers and a lot of people who are talking about this at the moment fear that we're being spun a line in some way, because none of it adds up, does it?
Yeah.
To be told that he's an anti-Islamist when he did what he did, allegedly, I suppose I have to say, and his background, it just doesn't seem to add up. And a lot of people suspect we're being managed by, I don't know, the police, the authorities in Germany, who don't want a knee-jerk reaction.
Well, it doesn't add up, and very often it doesn't. But the motivation of the individual really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the end result is the same, whether they're extreme right wing, extreme left wing, Islamist, or some other terror organization. We've got 5 people dead, 200 injured, and you find that all of the different terror organizations and individuals that get motivated in exactly the same way. So why they've done it is important to make sure that you can identify that there aren't more people who are being motivated that way and stop any further attacks. But is it going to change what actually happened? No, not really. So people get focused on the why too quickly, whenever it's really important to make sure that there isn't any more of it going to happen.
Philip, do you think it's fair to say, I took my children to Winter Wonderland in London a couple of weeks ago. There are crash barriers everywhere. We've seen viewers have sent pictures in from Manchester, from Birmingham, in Surrey. Armed police patrolling Christmas markets are now routine. Is this, we can see, this is the pictures now of Birmingham. A pal of mine sent this through. You can see the entrance there. That would be an emergency entrance. That bar on your screen, something similar in Magdeburg may have been breached. But look, it is highly fortress-like. It's metal barriers. A car can't get through it. Is this depressing backdrop now just a part of Christmas? This is the new normal. The terror threat is now so substantive and so repetitive that sadly and tragically this reminder of terrorism is now literally part and parcel of Christmas.
I think it is a sad reality of life that terror is something that is in our society. And in the UK, that's part of the National Barrier Network that you saw the pictures of there that are put around publicly accessible locations. There's a new piece of legislation coming in. It's just reached its 3rd reading in the House of Commons called Martin's Law, which is all about ensuring that there is a basic level of security around publicly accessible locations. That was brought in after the horrible attack in Manchester and the Ariana Grande concert, where one of the victims, Martin Hett, his mother, Fegan Murray, has been campaigning to get a piece of legislation brought in just to mandate a basic level of security. There's no legal requirement for this at the moment. And until this law comes in, that will then give that legal requirement. And this is what's shocking. And we're ahead of the game compared to many other countries around the world.
OK, thank you very much. Sobering stuff. Thanks for your expertise, as ever. Former senior military intelligence officer Philip Ingram there. Thank you.
Now, let's move on to domestic politics again. There are headlines all over the place. Rachel Reeves there on the front page of the Daily Mail being called a Christmas Grinch because it says she steals 45% of your donations to charities.
Yeah, and the government are at it elsewhere as well because a new grocery tax introduced by the government will push up annual household shopping bills by at least 56 quid to achieve net zero targets.
Yes, ministers have been accused of quietly passing the bill, which will see retailers and manufacturers charged for the packaging they use. Now, the amount will increase for plastic wrapping in a bid to reduce waste.
And of course, that's on the same day there, as Anne just said, as the Daily Mail has labelled the Chancellor the Grinch. It's normally Mick Lynch, as her budget tax grab means 45 pence and every pound donated to charity will now effectively go straight into government coffers.
Yeah, well, we're joined now by the editor of Spiked Online, Tom Slater. Morning, Tom. Yeah, Rachel Reeves won't enjoy those headlines, although she must have got used to it by now.
I was going to say, it wasn't exactly going well for her, excuse me, beforehand. To be labelled the Grinch at Christmas because of the knock-on effect of a national insurance hike is, it was probably inevitable. I mean, this has been something that, as soon as the budget came through, it didn't really, wasn't as much discussed in the media, but certainly many in the charity sector were saying, do you not realise how badly this is going to hit us? There is no exemption from the hike in employer contributions on national insurance that was brought in for the third sector. And as a consequence of this, the amount that they're handing over to the HMRC collectively is going to go up to 6.3 billion, which is 45% of the 13.9 billion that people donate to charities every year. This is a terrible look for the government. They did have a chance in the past week to rectify this because there was an amendment that was supported by Reform, by the Liberal Democrats, by the Conservatives to exempt charities from the NI hike, and they flatly refused, saying that actually, on balance, this is actually quite a hospitable environment for charities. Say that to the charity bosses who are saying that they're going to have to pick between paring back services, laying off staff. So another bad headline for the government and another very foreseen circumstance of their budget, which they haven't managed to head off.
And Tom, this is another consequence of something that a lot of people warned about. And it's like, guess what? You've got a lot of employees on low wages, charities do, the kind of people that go around knocking on your door or shaking you down on the street. They're on a low wage, they're an employee. So if you hike national insurance and you increase minimum wage, it's a double whammy. And it always goes off the bottom line. Charities can't pass that on to the public. They can only take it from the money that they're given. And so the direct consequences are aligned to the fact a lot of people are already sceptical about the idea that charity top brass get paid whacking great salaries. So what's actually going to be left for the charitable causes?
Well, this is exactly it, because I think especially some of the bigger charities, as you say, people would see some of the wage packets that the CEOs of those charities were taking home, a kind of sneaking suspicion that maybe pound for pound their donations are not being as well used. Aside from that, it's also the fact that now you've got 45% of those donations being creamed off by HMRC. RSPCA are saying they're going to have to hand over $1 million extra to HMRC this year. Marie Curie has said that it's going to be as high as $3 million for them. And so it's going to be a huge blow to the charity sector. And also, as you suggest, kind of people's faith in the charity sector's ability to deliver, given the way it's structured itself, but also the amount of money it's now having to hand over to Rachel Reeves, it seems like.
Should they be exempt from any form of tax?
Well, the thing is, it raises the question about whether or not this NI hike was a good idea in the first place. I mean, you could talk about these charities, which are quite big organisations, but also if you think about small business, where if you take on this hike will make it be even more impactful in the kind of short term, because of the fact it could be the difference between hiring someone or having to lay off people very quickly. So I think it's less raised the question about the charity sector in general and more about whether or not this effective tax on jobs was the right thing to do in the kind of economic circumstances we find ourselves in.
I think a lot of people looking at headlines like this, Tom and Anne, they will reasonably think, well, if I give £1 into a donation box and 45p is going to the Chancellor, why bother? I don't, if I want to give money to somebody, maybe on the street, give £1 to a homeless person directly. It's going to be bad news for the charitable sector all round if the government's effectively creaming off half every pound you put in a donation box.
No, absolutely. And if you think also about how much the charitable sector also is used these days in terms of actually deploying services, it's not just kind of raising money to fund research. They could actually be very directly involved, like something like Marie Curie, in the actual deliverance of care and services. This is something which is going to be really felt. It's not just it's going into a pot of money which is going to fund research to hopefully overcome cancer or whatever. It's actually day-to-day services and care which could be hit by this as well.
So doesn't anyone in this government do impact assessment, or whatever you call it now? Thinking ahead, how is this going to look and how is it going to go down with ordinary people?
I think that on the first one, absolutely, they do these impact assessments. What I think they're really lacking is they've got no sense of how these things will go down with ordinary people. They seem to think that if they just made it sound as bleak as possible, we have to take these tough decisions, people would just roll over. This is a very unpopular government. That was never going to happen. And yet they've carried on with the sort of level of hubris you would have if you had actually quite deep public support, which, as we all know, they don't.
Well, I tell you what, you're coming in a bit later on as well, and I'd love to talk about this then, because it begs the question. Again, it's the Daily Mail, and I know you can argue that the Daily Mail is just gunning for this government every single day. But Dan Hodges writes, why Labour bigwigs already wonder if this is going to be Starmer's first and only Christmas in Downing Street. We'll talk about that next.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right. Thanks very much indeed.
Tom Slater, wonderful stuff. Thank you. Now, GB News, we'd love to hear what you think. Every day we'll be running our poll of the day, and today's big poll question is this. Do you agree with the government's new grocery tax in order to hit net zero targets? Do you agree with them charging you extra so the government can meet their net zero targets? And we'll bring you the live results throughout the day, so make sure that you stay tuned. The final results will be announced later in Nana Akwia's show.
And you know, of course, by now, for all our latest polls and news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/polls.
Let's have a look now at some of the stories coming into the newsroom today.
Well, the president-elect, Donald Trump, has chosen a British TV executive as his special envoy to the UK. He's Mark Burnett. He created The Apprentice, the programme, of course, that sent Mr. Trump to the heights of fame. In a statement, Trump said it was a great honour to pick his former colleague to take up that role.
You're hired.
Yeah.
And the RSPCA is facing backlash after TV presenter Chris Packham and the former Green Party MP Caroline Lucas quit the charity over cruelty claims. And that's after activist group Animal Rising released footage allegedly showing animal cruelty from an abattoir on the charity's approved list. And in response, the RSPCA has said it takes allegations of poor animal welfare incredibly seriously.
Princess Beatrice will be joining the royal family at Sandringham this Christmas after having to change her travel plans because of medical advice. She and her husband are expecting their second child in early spring. And before changing their plans, the couple were planning on spending the festive period in Italy with the princess's in-laws. That must have been a strange conversation for the doctor to have with Princess Beatrice. Say, I'm terribly sorry, I really can't clear you for international travel. You'll just have to slum it and go to Sandringham instead with the king.
I think she'd probably be quite happy.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
Put me clogs up, have a mince pie.
I mean, if she's expecting early spring, she'll probably look forward to an excuse to put her feet up.
You don't need one of those at Christmas.
No, exactly, especially not in a palace.
It's time for your weather now. Here's Craig Snell.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Metaverse. Well, as we look ahead towards Christmas, after a very windy and cold feeling day today, actually the weather does turn milder as we approach Christmas Day itself, but with plenty of cloud too. Back to the here and now for Sunday. It's going to be a very windy day, as I mentioned, across many parts, but especially so for many northern and western areas. Warnings are in force from the Met Office right throughout the day, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, it's really going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers across many parts. Showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground in the north, and that strength of the wind really is going to make things feel bitterly cold. On the thermometer, we could see highs reaching around 7 to 9, but certainly feeling sub-zero, especially for parts of Scotland. So as we end the day, still some further showers moving in across many parts of Scotland. The sleet and snow across the high ground could just give a little bit of ice in places. Maybe fewer showers for Northern Ireland and the rest of England and Wales, with the clearest of the skies really over towards the far southeastern corner. Moving towards the early hours of Monday morning, the winds will gradually ease across many parts. That allows more in the way of clear skies to develop. So we probably will see a widespread frost developing as we start Monday morning. Could just still see a few showers across Scotland, again just maintaining a risk of some ice here. But most towns and cities falling down to low single figures, in the countryside certainly below freezing. So Monday morning itself, a bright but frosty start for a lot of us. Plenty of crisp winter sunshine to be had, but out towards the west, thicker cloud, outbreaks of rain moving in, and that will herald something a little bit milder moving in. So temperatures gradually rising in the west as we go through Monday, but out towards the east, hanging on to the colder conditions for one more day. But here we will maintain with the sunshine right throughout the afternoon.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
And still to come, we'll be meeting the communities who work tirelessly to make Melton Mowbray pork pies, my favourite, in time for Christmas. That's next. This is GB News with Martin and Anne.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, joining us now is Feng Shui expert Karina Sophia, who's going to share some of the best ways to ensure that our homes are still feeling calm as well as beautifully decorated this Christmas time.
One of the Feng Shui myths is that Feng Shui is all about moving furniture, and it isn't at all. Oh. Well, there is a little bit of that. It is about the flow of energy, but it starts outside, so there's lots of different forms of Feng Shui. So what we're going to talk about today is one form called Flying Stars Feng Shui, and there's another one that's classical, and form Feng Shui starts outside. If a 5-year-old would walk past your house and be happy, then the energy will.
I love that.
So if a 5-year-old would like to see more, would like to come in and would touch anything and not get hurt, then it's a good thing and the energy is feeling good and wants to come in as well.
What about the light colours? Does that matter? Does that come into play?
Yes, there are different colours. Depending on the direction, the compass direction of your home, there are good colours that support the energy inside the home. So if your home is facing north, for instance, then it would be sitting south, and the inherent energy of the south is fire. So you want to have red or green, which is wood, that fuels the fire, and that supports the inside of the home. Now, I just painted my door red a couple of days ago, and then I got this opportunity, so don't underestimate it. You want to decorate your tree with whatever you want to manifest. Whatever it is that you want to bring into your life. So this speaks for itself. It
Joy.
says joy.
Oh.
And it has a little bell
I
on
like
it.
that idea. I can get on board with this. So you decorate your tree with things you'd like to see in your life.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to put some joy.
That would be nice.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Leslie Garrett is 70 coming up. It's not today, but she's coming up to her 70th. And she's saying, I think I better retire at 70 because I don't want the audiences to think I'm an oldie who hasn't got it anymore. I think that's a bit sad.
She looks fabulous and she
does
sounds
look
fabulous.
and yeah.
Crack on.
Yeah, but she's worried and she thinks at 70 by now she should be retired. I was just wondering if there's anyone watching at the moment who took a decision and to retire at a certain age and stuck to it and whether it's worked for you. Do get in touch and let us know. As I said, I was going to retire last year.
Well, don't be doing that anytime soon.
No, I can't.
Who's going to fill your chair?
Oh, there'll be lots of people who will, but who's going to fill my, bank account? That's the...
Yeah.
You have to go on working nowadays, don't you? You really do.
Well, my dad's still gardening at age 86. He said to me he'll either drop dead with a rake in his hand or a pint in his hand.
Well, either is probably really good. Yeah. But Leslie Garrett, no, you don't have to retire just because you're 70. You really don't. OK, so have you noticed that Christmas is just a few days away now? And the festive food is apparently flying off the shelves.
And on many dinner tables throughout the country, you'll find a pork pie. But in Leicestershire, it's a tradition for families to eat a Melton Mowbray pork pie on Christmas morning for breakfast.
Yeah, we sent our East Midlands reporter, Will Hollis, to find out why.
Yum.
In the rural capital of food, the festive season is big for business. Famed for Stilton cheese and the Melton Mowbray pork pie, sales rise dramatically before Christmas. Connor is the head chef at March House Farm near Melton.
I would describe a pork pie as the traditional farmhouse comfort food. To me, the beauty of this pork pie is it's a labour of love. So here you won't see any added nasties, there's no preservatives.
A Melton Mowbray pork pie follows a strict recipe and can only be made locally. Hand-raised using ingredients from the farm, the team are preparing hundreds ahead of the big day. And not just for customers.
Not only do I enjoy making pork pies, I also enjoy eating pork pies.
Crunchy pastry and a jelly filling, Melton Mowbray pork pies are eaten every day across Britain. But in Leicestershire and the wider East Midlands, families wake up on Christmas Day and tuck into a pork pie for breakfast. Jo is manager at the farm.
We're going to be really busy, but we'll make sure we get those pork pies sorted for you.
It's been in her family for generations.
It's very popular throughout the year, but leading up to Christmas, hundreds and hundreds of pork pies will fly out of here. It might seem odd to other people, but to have a pork pie on Christmas morning is certainly worth it.
Pork pies became popular in the 1700s during hunting season. Matthew O'Callaghan from the Melton Mowbray Pork Pie Association has fought to protect the local delicacy. And for good reason. Rural foods like Stilton and the Mowbray pie add £100 million to the local economy.
People are going for a premium product, and they know that they're going to be paying that little bit more for Melton Mowbray pork pie. And if you want the best, you have to pay for the best.
Melton Mowbray pork pies are loved around the world, and there are some fans here too.
Well, this time of year is just right for pork pies.
It's fantastic, pork pie. I do love pork pie.
They look nice on your table for Christmas, and they match the aesthetic, but they're not very nice, and I wouldn't eat them.
While not everyone enjoys a slice of pork pie, for many it's top of their Christmas list. The first thing they think about.
Christmas morning, grab your pork pie, tuck in.
Will Hollis, GB News, Melton Mowbray.
I tell you what, I'm a vegetarian and have been for a very long time, but I used to enjoy a slice of pork pie with a packet of crisps and maybe a sliced tomato. There's something about pork pies that... What is it? I don't know. You worked in a pork pie factory. Tell me, why do we love pork pies?
Well, I almost need a bib watching that. I mean, I'm just, like, drooling. I tell you, pork pies are an art form. I used to watch them being made, from the pastry being made to the butchery of the animals, to the mixing, to the seasoning, to them being formed, for them going through the ovens. They go through a slow-moving oven, and they're baked
Well, they're not just put in an oven and taken out again. They're always on a conveyor.
Right, and they move through. And the crucial thing is the heat goes from underneath. You know that lovely crispy base when the knife goes through?
Yes.
At the end?
Yes.
That is the art form. That, to me, is divine. I love them with a lattice. I love them with a crust. I love them with an egg in them.
Well, it's like that lady said, they look beautiful on the table, don't they?
Yeah, they're a beautiful, beautiful thing. And here's one thing I'll admit now, probably shouldn't. I used to steal the pork pies when they came out the end of the conveyor belt, just because I'd never had a hot pork pie in my life, let me tell you this. A hot pork pie.
What, that's just been made?
Just come out the oven.
Yeah.
Astonishing. Astonishing. An object of beauty. You've got to be careful about the gelatine flying out because it's still liquid.
Ooh, yeah.
But the hot, steaming meat and the crispy base, there's no such thing as a bad pork pie. I love it.
It's funny, isn't it? It's, it gives you a sort of real emotional tug of heartstrings. So, I mean, that is quite interesting, that reminder that it looks lovely on the table.
Yeah.
And if you can... But apparently, you know, pork pies that are made in Melton Mowbray are sold all over the country.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in every supermarket, most of them are made in Melton Mowbray or Leicester or whatever. And that's amazing. That's
I think it's something to be proud of. You know, like French has their Champagne region. Melton Mowbray is our Champagne.
Yes.
It's that thing. It's
that important.
It's a local connection. It's a national pride. And I think they're a
And according to John here, thanks very much, John, who's emailed in a lot of the background to them, you know, the group, it's now owned by an enormous group, including that old pork pie shop there. But when the profits sort of go back in, so in good times, he says, the money helps expand all the businesses with new equipment, new buildings, and in the bad time, it just helps to keep everybody's jobs safe.
That's breakfast sorted. I know what I'm having.
You're making me hungry. Stop it. It's like I said, with a packet of crisps and a sliced tomato.
I like a bit of Branson pickle with them. I like a bit of mustard, a bit of chutney. I mean, there's no such thing as a bad pork pie, as I said. We should probably move on.
We'll take it from here. Yes, I suppose. Absolutely. Let's remind you that you can grab a chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash. It's our biggest ever Great British giveaway, and you can be part of it. Here's all the details you need.
There's just 3 sleeps till Christmas and all through the land. GB News has the chance to win a nifty 50 grand. That's cash for the new year. You could go on a spree. And the best thing about it, it's totally tax-free. From Santa with love, you could be our winner. Just enter right now or right after Christmas dinner. It's a cracker of a prize guaranteed to enthrall. From all of us at GB News, Merry Christmas to you all.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, ding ding. It was a big fight night for Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. And Aidan McGee will be here with all the latest next. This is GB News Breakfast with Martin and Anne.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Phil Kearsey is bringing a new flavour to the Michelin-starred restaurant Terre as he becomes its new executive head chef. Customers can expect a menu that showcases modern British cooking, accompanied by classical French roots, which uses hyper-seasonal ingredients. What are hyper-seasonal ingredients? That's an interesting phrase.
It's more about just reacting to the seasonality of everything. We like to change the menu all the time. So basically, I surround myself with the best suppliers, and they tell me what's amazing at the moment, and then we try and celebrate that in the restaurant in many different forms, using taste, texture, and technique, and just try and celebrate something as humble as a broccoli stem or a cauliflower, using absolutely everything, and making sure we've got an ever-changing menu. So letting the seasons dictate, so it's never boring and we never get menu fatigue.
OK, your career has taken you around the world a bit.
Yeah.
For example, you were in the United States. What did you learn there?
So, every chef I've worked for, it's about to take something from. A lot of chefs will go places and just stay in one establishment and get to the top, and then that's it. I've kind of then went to another chef to learn completely different things. That's the brilliant thing, to be able to surround myself with such amazing chefs throughout my career, because I've learned different things from all of them. And you find out 5 different ways to do something, and you find the way that you like it the best. And it's also about understanding it takes a while to understand how the restaurant is, going through the history of all these amazing chefs that have been before me, the style, because it needs to make sense. You wouldn't have a dish that should be at the Fat Duck and then a dish that should be at the Waterside, you know. You need to make sure that it all makes sense and it goes together with the decor, the service, the wine serving. And so we want to be the restaurant, not that does a little bit of everything. We want to be the best French restaurant in London, you know.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, and thanks for getting in touch. William says, I love GB News Breakfast. Why are you showing pork pies at this time? I am now craving for a pork pie. Shops don't open for a couple of hours. I could literally smell them coming out of my television.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's
You're not the only one. Everybody's remarking on pork pies. We seem to have got your taste buds going.
Good. Well, that's what we're here for, to support British business at Christmas. Excellent stuff.
OK, time for the sport. Apparently something happened overnight. Aidan McGee is with us. It was the big fight.
Yep.
When did it start? When did it end? And how?
It started at around about, I think it was by the time we threw the first punch, it was about 11:30.
Oh, right.
Tyson Fury came into All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Usyk came in this kind of warrior cloak and he said a quiet prayer to himself in the corner. So it was all very, very serious. Tyson Fury hadn't spoken to his missus for 3 months. He went into camp in Malta and, as I say, some people thought he took Usyk lightly in the first fight. I didn't think that. I just think he got beaten. And then last night, I think it lived up to every expectation. Now, we all don't, but as we can see from the judges, as we can see from some of the pundits on the various broadcast outlets, we don't all see the same fight, but I thought it was brilliant last night. I thought it was even better than the first fight. Two men weighing in at the heaviest they've ever done. And, look, some people are saying that Tyson Fury thinks he won it by 3 rounds, but he probably would say that. Frank Warren, who was on with us yesterday, thought Tyson Fury was robbed. I didn't see that fight, and I have to say, I felt that Usyk has proved himself pound for pound to be one of the greatest ever now.
He really has now.
He's beaten Usyk twice. You can't. Well, that's why he's the undisputed.
Yeah.
He's beaten AJ twice. He's beaten Tyson Fury twice now. He's beaten Daniel Dubois. Where does he go from here? You know what? That was astonishing. He's not even a heavyweight. He's a cruiserweight. Yeah, he stepped up.
He packs on the weight, but he beat him convincingly.
Pork pie.
Yeah.
Probably does.
You know what? No, Rafa Nadal eats a lot of chocolate. I know we're going off here, but these athletes aren't afraid to take on calories. It'd be interesting to know how many calories these guys take on. So, I mean, we laugh at pork pies. It's not all about spinach.
There's a lot of spiel, as there always is, about the judges being biased or bad. You've got a fascinating fact for us here, Aidan.
Well, look, I mean, I would say I scored. I'm not a boxing expert. I wouldn't say I've not been in the ring at all. Not since university days anyway, and I wasn't in there for fighting. But 116 to 112 was all three judges whose opinion counted last night towards the score. They judged it as that. The AI judge, this is interesting because this is being pioneered at the moment, and because I think that it might be a solution to eliminating any suspicion of bias among the humans who judge the fights as they are now. It's always suggested that if you fight in Nevada, if you fight in Vegas, you might get a favourable judgment towards a local fighter. It's always been suggested that it can't be proved, but AI offers the possibility of eliminating that completely. And last night, the AI official scored at 118 to 112 in favour of Usyk. So they saw a similar fight.
Yes. Yeah.
So an AI judge, then, I'm assuming there's just cameras everywhere. It watches every punch land and it scores it automatically without
going through. It's making a judgment call.
Yeah. Aggression as well. It's very sophisticated. Next hour, they've actually developed a picture of what the AI guy would look like. They've given him a tie and everything.
Very interesting.
It is, yeah. It is. It doesn't. The Sun did a separate article on it today or overnight online just to see how it went. And it was eerily close to what the judges on the night scored it. And I think that there are lots of people who say that, OK, I think Usyk won and it's a scandal. But we're all hearing it through the prism of British coverage. I listened to the fight last night and a lot of the coverage was, Fury's in this, he's in this. It didn't sound like he was to me. And the footage I saw as well, it didn't sound like he was. I'm not saying not in it, but he didn't seem like he was going to win it. That's
well, look, we better speed ahead because otherwise we won't have time for the papers. But it's been noticed that Martin is buzzing after another Forest win.
Yes, correct. Yeah, thank you very, very much indeed for that. Yeah, Forest the fourth. I mean, look, even I, in my moments of highest delusion, never believe fourth will be fourth at Christmas.
No, we can't talk about it. We can only buzz.
Fine, let's keep our
Otherwise, we're
keep
not going to have any time for the papers. Next hour, we'll talk about it, yeah? Right, let's see if you're in search of some winter sun. Oh, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest winter sun forecast. If you're travelling over the Christmas period, it's certainly going to remain unsettled for central parts of the Mediterranean as an area of low pressure brings some strong winds, some heavy rain and also some snow to the higher levels. Something a little bit quieter for parts of Iberia, plenty of sunshine to be had here, but then down towards the Canaries, still the risk of some showers, although it will improve here as we approach Christmas Day itself. Temperatures in Madeira reaching around 20 degrees on Christmas Day.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Now, still to come, Winston Davis and Lynn May go through the newspapers with us. This is GB News Breakfast with Martin and Anne.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
My next guest knew George Carman rather intimately. Indeed, he immediately asked her for her hand in marriage when they first met. Karen Phillips knew Carman from 1986 and was a close friend until his death in 2001. Karen has used court transcripts and personal documents to construct her new book, Get Carman. There it is. And here you are. Karen, thank you very much indeed. So you knew him very well, and actually, he began to write a little bit of an autobiography just in the weeks before his death. And from those pages, I was struck by the amount of uncertainty that there was about the man. This man who was so confident in court, who charmed juries so famously, but in some ways felt that he was an actor, in some ways felt that he was fighting back nerves and uncertainties. Is that true?
I think he was quite worried about every case. It was much more that he was concerned for the client. He always wanted to do his best. He worked so hard to win a case, not really for his personal satisfaction, but because he didn't want to let people down.
His success rate was extraordinary, and, you know, I'll choose my words carefully here, but shall we say that many people were surprised at the time that Jeremy Thorpe was found not guilty. It was astonishing in the case of Jonathan Aitken, for example, that the principal charge against him, which was that he'd been corrupt in arms dealings, I don't think that was ever actually reached during the court. It seems even more surprising today that people who were employed by Mohammed Fayed were believed in the case of Neil Hamilton. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, his results are extraordinary.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hello again, time is 6:47. Now joining us to go through the newspapers this morning, political commentator Lynn May and social campaigner Winston Davis. And good morning and happy Christmas.
Good morning, happy Christmas.
Yeah.
Happy Christmas.
Let's start, shall we, Lynn, with Elon Musk. In The Observer, I mean, they're sort of worried about the effect he might have on British politics.
Well, of course they do. And I'm sure that there's lots of conversation where they're saying we have to block this, we have to bring it in. It won't seem like a surprise because we already discussed ensuring that we block dirty money donations. However, it wasn't so long ago that Keir Starmer failed to actually let people know that he was getting the donations from Lord Ali and all of those other things that he was not supposed to do. And especially as the Labour Party had that rhetoric of, you know, let's be transparent, this is the party of change, constant criticism. But then if they do this as well, it's like, what about the other parties, the Conservatives, SNP, Liberal Democrats? They've all taken money from donors that have not been registered. So it seems... I think
this could be why, at the moment, ministers seem reluctant to do...
Of course they are.
Talk about how they disapprove of Musk giving money, possibly, but they're probably not going to do anything.
No, I don't think they will, because if they do... Reform at the moment does have a lot of support, and a lot of people are coining him. He could be, you know, Nigel Farage could be the next Prime Minister. But if they do something like this, they will say, you know, this is unfair. You're trying to keep back the favourites amongst the people. But then if they don't, then we will see lots and lots of support, because many people support Trump now and Elon Musk.
I think if they're going to go and stop Musk from donating in every which way he does it, through, you know, subsidiaries or whatever else, it's going to be a win for reform. And I think Labour will know that, other parties are going to know that, and it's like that tidal wave of reform getting more support. It's going to help.
Either way, it's a win, isn't it? Do you not think? Either way, if they block it, it's a win. If they don't block it, it's a win for reform.
But Elon Musk is not British.
No, but there are legal ways this could easily be done. For example, a subsidiary of X or Tesla in the UK, that'd be a way of getting money in. His father, Errol Musk, his mum was born in Liverpool.
So a roundabout way.
Loopholes galore, loopholes.
Musk's father told us, Nana Akua, actually, on GB News, could easily get dual citizenship
if you want,
and become a resident and suddenly, oh, I've got a few million quid to spare. So they can't stop it. The question is it allowable? Should we be encouraging foreign money? And to be fair, Nigel Farage moaned like heck when Barack Obama got involved in Brexit, and he moaned like heck when the Labour Party sent activists to help Kamala Harris. So
he's very critical. You know, the reason why I wouldn't like to see it is because Reform and Nigel Farage has been very critical of anything foreign meddling in our politics. So it would be a bit of hypocrisy.
Or would it? Because, you know, there was a £4 million donation went to the Labour Party straight after the general election was announced, from a Cayman Island hedge fund. So my point on this is they're all at it.
They're all at it.
But they seem to suddenly be clutching their pearls when it might be a political opponent being the net beneficiary.
But I think the difference with Elon is he's got a huge platform. With these other donations, it's the platform, and he really does get involved. He tweets all the time. He's so critical of British politics, and I don't think that's a positive.
I was just going to say, do you not find that exciting?
I think this. Money talks, and he's the richest man in the world, and he's playthinging around the world right now. He's involved in Germany, he's involved here, he's involved in America, and bear in mind, he's South African, So he's just helped win the American election, he's meddling in Germany, he's meddling in here.
Well, I think you raise an excellent point, because Elon Musk said in the wake of this terror attack at the German market that the traditional political parties in Germany have utterly failed the people. AfD is the only hope for Germany. And Lynn,
he's doing it again.
There's a huge election in February, and I think what's happened at this market will be a part of that. And is Elon Musk not just a billionaire, but does he want to change Europe? Does he want to save the West one nation at a time?
Well, this is the thing. When he bought Twitter, he said it was going to be very balanced. It was going to be, you know... and I don't think it's balanced at all. Now, no matter how you lean in terms of left or right or what party you support, if this was on the left, many people would say this is absolutely horrific what's happening. So I think we shouldn't look at the different types of politics you support. I don't think it's a positive that someone has so much wealth, has such a platform, so much power, and he's involving himself in our politics.
He could be the man who puts men on Mars, and women on Mars, though. You know, I mean, I just wonder if...
Do you want to go to Mars?
I don't personally.
No.
But there will be people who will be queuing up. Before we run out of time, Oh Come All Ye Wokeful Carols, Lynn, in the Daily Mail. What's this about? Wokeful carols?
What's being said is they should avoid certain things being sung because it can offend and upset other faiths. Now, I think this is absolutely ridiculous.
Who is saying this?
Well, ministers are saying we have to consider other religions. Obviously, being in Britain, we have to consider, you know, maybe people of other faiths. But my thing is, and I have to say this, and many people might not know this, but let's take Islam, for example. Islam says in the Quran and the Hadiths, you must abide by the land in the country that you live in. So I don't know why all of this pandering and changing of laws, policies, legislations, especially when this is a Christian country, it's our Christmas, we should be able to sing what we like.
True, but it is happening, though. I went to my daughter's nativity last week, and they in a church, they more or less raised all mention of Christmas. Because, in case other pupils wanted to go, but were offended by Christmas.
Well, why would it offend you, though? Well, I don't know why it would offend you.
Because it's not inclusive, apparently, anymore to sing Christmas carols.
I went to my daughter's nursery, which is in the church, on Friday, and they had a Christmas carol thing, and there was all kind of different, you know, ethnicities, whatever else there. This is the thing about where we're going to. We're going too far of, I can't insult you by saying...
It's not even an insult.
No, but you know, but the thing is, you can upset people because you say this or say that.
But when I said who is saying this, is it the people or is it the priests who are the ministers?
The Church of England.
Who are assuming that
the Church of England is accused of losing the plot after clergy has suggested it.
Yeah,
well, they're backing down. The clergy's job should be to protect Christianity.
Exactly.
Not to pander to those people who are offended by it.
And they wouldn't do it for any other faith. Would not bow down to anything of any changes.
Too right.
I think it's clever people that are sat in offices that don't have any connection with the real world, that come up with great ideas and want to justify their pay packet.
OK, enough said for the moment. There'll be plenty more. Let's find out first about the weather.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Metaverse. Well, as we look ahead towards Christmas, after a very windy and cold feeling day today, actually the weather does turn milder as we approach Christmas Day itself, but with plenty of cloud too. Back to the here and now for Sunday. It's going to be a very windy day, as I mentioned, across many parts, but especially so for many northern and western areas. Warnings are in force from the Met Office right throughout the day, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, it's really going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers across many parts. Showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground in the north, and that strength of the wind really is going to make things feel bitterly cold. On the thermometer, we could see highs reaching around 7 to 9, but certainly feeling sub-zero, especially for parts of Scotland. So as we end the day, still some further showers moving in across many parts of Scotland. The sleet and snow across the high ground could just give a little bit of ice in places. Maybe fewer showers for Northern Ireland and the rest of England and Wales, with the clearest of the skies really over towards the far southeastern corner. Moving towards the early hours of Monday morning, the winds will gradually ease across many parts. That allows more in the way of clear skies to develop. So we probably will see a widespread frost developing as we start Monday morning. Could just still see a few showers across Scotland, again just maintaining a risk of some ice here. But most towns and cities falling down to low single figures, in the countryside certainly below freezing. So Monday morning itself, a bright but frosty start for a lot of us. Plenty of crisp winter sunshine to be had, but out towards the west, thicker cloud, outbreaks of rain moving in, and that will herald something a little bit milder moving in. So temperatures gradually rising in the west as we go through Monday, but out towards the east, hanging on to the colder conditions for one more day. But here we will maintain with the sunshine right throughout the afternoon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God.
Nana Queer. Weekends from 3 p.m.
Today,
had a meeting with the police and they are looking to see what they have and are looking to reopen investigation if they can find new and compelling evidence. What's interesting now is speaking to other families who are actually going through the trauma and experience of murder.
Yeah.
My mum didn't get the opportunity to be a mum. What would my life have been? I'm now 33 years old with no parents. And it's that kind of thing. It's a very, I guess, lonely journey in what I'm experiencing. That's why I wanted to make this film, because I hadn't had the opportunity to be able to grieve my mother and know who she was. And that was really what this journey was about. It was about finding out who she was and being able to grieve. Everyone had the opportunity, although terrible circumstances, to be able to go to the funeral and have that moment, and I never had that opportunity.
The People's Channel.
A very good morning to you. The whole of Germany stands in dark hours with the people of Magdeburg.
Yes, we now know 4 adults and a 9-year-old child have been killed, with more than 200 other people injured.
And the 50-year-old man accused of their murder has been remanded in custody.
The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has been called a Grinch because it's been revealed that her tax changes in the budget means that 45 pence in every pound that you or me or anyone donates to charity will actually go to the taxman.
And the cost of the Green Dream, a new grocery tax designed to achieve the government's net zero targets, will push up your household shopping bills by up to £1.4 billion a year.
Now to the real talking point of the morning. In Britain's rural capital of food, bakers are working tirelessly to ensure that every dinner table has a traditional pork pie for Christmas Day. Our reporter Will Hollis has been meeting the communities making them.
Yum. And as animal rights campaigners target festive trail hunts, today we're asking, should we ban the activity?
The dust-up in the desert did not disappoint. Tyson Fury failed, though, in his bid for revenge against undisputed world heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk of the Ukraine, losing on a unanimous decision in Riyadh. We'll have all the reaction from a thrilling contest throughout the morning.
Good morning. It's a cold and blustery day for most of us today, but temperatures are on the rise as we approach Christmas Day. Find out all the weather details with me coming up a little later on.
Top of the morning to you. It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Martin Daubney.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast. Now, we'll be taking a closer look at pork pies a bit later on, but they seem to have grabbed your imagination. Pat says, I have never had a modern pork pie, even Melton Mowbray ones. They all seem dry now, with no gelatin around the outside of the meat. The outside used to be crusty brown, and then inside the gelatin kept the pastry white and moist. Today's pork pies are so dry, I have to slap HP sauce all over them, as even the meat lacks flavour. Get some samples in the studio and cut them in half, and you'll find what I'm talking about. And a lot of people have gotten in touch about that there's no gelatin in anymore.
You see, I find that hard to accept. Gelatin is an integral part of the pie. As I said before, I used to work in a pork pie factory for all my summers and all my Christmases when I was a youth. I paid my way through university via the medium of pork pie, Pork Farms in Nottingham.
Brought to you by a pork pie.
Just tremendous food. And the gelatin going in and being injected in a liquefied format as it went into the oven was a part of the process, precisely that.
They still do that with gelatin, don't
they? They do. And the idea that there's none there because, what, it's got gelatin in it. It's a pork pie.
Yes.
You don't have vegan gelatin and a pork pie. What would be the point of that?
DA says, what a joyous segment on the pork pie.
Nice.
It reminds me of how we always had small pork pies warmed in the coal oven, eaten for supper. Yes, it was a working-class supper between 8 and 9 p.m. I'd be killed with indigestion if I had one nowadays.
In fact, if you get your coal shovel, the little coal shovel, and you put your pork pies on the coal shovel and drop them on, just a couple of minutes, and what that does, as I kept saying earlier, the heat goes from underneath. It makes the base crispy. It gives it that noise when the knife goes through it. It's poetry.
Oh, yes.
It's interesting what you said about having them hot, because that's how I would like them.
Yeah.
But I always thought they meant to be cold.
Yes, I've always only ever eaten them cold, but...
For those who missed the previous hour, I did admit to a minor indiscretion or a theft when I was younger. I used to take the pork pies when they came off the end of the conveyor belt. And by the way, the sausage rolls, straight off the conveyor belt. And the pork pie is still piping hot. And you'd slice it out, and it was this gorgeous plume of meaty...
goodness.
Meaty kind of steam came out, and the gelatin spilled away. They were delicious hot. Delicious.
Well, Wilhelmina is very grateful because she said, I like the idea of a warm pork pie. Can you tell us how to heat one and is it safe? Yeah, just be careful about the gelatin, as you said.
Yeah.
And John says, Martin and Anne, the old pork pie shop that we saw, and we'll see again in the programme, is owned by the Samworth family. And one thing they did in Leicester was that they built a secondary school costing 20 million called the Samworth Academy School, and then they handed it over to the Education Authority at Leicester Council as a donation. So they're obviously, it started as a family business by the sound of it and has developed enormously, but it still has this idea of community and of paying back into the community.
A meaty donation. It's good of them to share their crust.
Yeah, very nice.
There's examples of that around the country. When I was at university in Norwich, Coleman's was a huge thing over there with the mustard and kettle chips as well. Huge for the local economy.
Everybody at home now is just drooling, aren't they?
Yeah.
They just want pork pie and chips.
OK, but it's nice to have something to be cheery about because the news is so grim, I'm afraid, as we head towards Christmas. Our top story, of course, is following the devastating attack at the Christmas market in the German city of Magdeburg. The Saudi Arabian government are claiming that they repeatedly warned Germany's authorities about the man now suspected of driving deliberately their car into crowds on Friday night.
Yeah, German media are reporting the man's identity as Taleb al-Abdelmozen, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor that Germany's interior minister says allegedly holds Islamophobic views.
Well, the suspect has been arrested and remains under investigation on suspicion of murder, attempted murder and causing bodily harm.
And with 200 injured and 5 dead, including now, tragically, a 9-year-old girl, Germany faces a Christmas morning at its loss.
Christmas market security is being reviewed, even here. In London, the Met are warning the public to stay vigilant in the wake of Friday's attack.
Well, earlier on,
the security around those has been upped for a number of years, but you should not have entrances which allow vehicles to come in at speed without some form of control on them. And the Christmas markets around the UK, for those that are concerned about them, I know put an awful lot of effort into making sure that these sorts of things cannot happen.
You know, when the police say that you've got to be, a member of the public has got to be vigilant, what does that really mean? Does it mean anything?
It does, and vigilance isn't going to stop someone who's found a weakness in the protected surround to a public accessible location, drives a car at high speed into it. Vigilance comes into anything else where you get this gut feeling that something's wrong, because very often your gut feeling is very right in what it's doing, and it's wider than just this sort of incident. So it covers anything where people think things are wrong within the local community, within where they are, understanding whether the individual's working alone or working as part of a wider group of people. So to try and reduce the threat that's there, and then get into the individual motivations and try to see if there's anything you can pick up from that would have allowed you to identify the individual as an attacker beforehand and identify others that may be motivated in the same way. Now, it's clear that from the reports that we're getting that the Saudi authorities have tried to warn the German authorities. I've lived in Germany. I've carried out intelligence operations in Germany, and it's a very, very difficult environment because of the different layers of intelligence organisations that there are across Germany who don't talk to each other. In the UK, we're very lucky because whether it's the local police, whether it's the counter-terror police who act on a national basis, everyone talks to each other. So we're in a much better position than Germany is, and it's shocking, this.
And that was the former senior military intelligence officer Philip Ingram we spoke to earlier here on Breakfast.
Now, there's lots of domestic politic news this morning, and the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, won't really like looking through the newspapers, I don't think, today, because she's been labelled a Christmas Grinch, because her budget tax grab, if you like, means that 45 pence in every pound donated by you, me, anyone, donated to charity is actually effectively going to go to the taxman.
Yeah, and in total, Labour's national insurance raid will add £1.4 billion to wage bills in the voluntary sector, which is already struggling, of course, amid rising housing and grocery costs.
Yeah, on the topic of supermarkets, ministers are being quietly accused of passing a net zero bill, which will see retailers and manufacturers charged for packaging. Now, you might think that's a good idea, but of course the cost will be passed on to consumers.
Of course it will. And we're joined now by the editor of Spiked Online, Tom Slater. Tom, welcome to the studio. So this government's already been called a basket case by a lot of people. Now they're on a basket raid, a grocery tax, £1.4 billion a year total. Of course, every time our pockets get picked these days, it seems to be masquerading under the guise of net zero. We're saving the planet, but we're not saving money. Could cost everybody watching this show £56 a year.
Absolutely, and it's worth saying these are the government's own numbers, their own impact assessments. So as a consequence of them passing quietly through secondary legislation, something called the Extended Producer Responsibility Scheme, this is effectively a kind of tax on producers when they are using plastic wrapping rather than paper or card and so on, is going to, across the country, push up prices by, or push up people's bills, I should say, by 1.4 billion. As you say, they've got this kind of scale of assessment suggesting that it could cost households at the lowest ebb about £28 a year, 48 is the kind of middle assessment, at 56 is the high assessment. So this is something which will, whilst seemingly modest, is an indication of the more net zero policies and the more net zero laws that are passed. It is on the backs of households that these things are paid for. Normally, this is a tax on business. It's to try and incentivise them away from using plastic wrapping towards using more sustainable forms of wrapping. But as we all know, they just pass the cost on to everyone else.
Yes, absolutely. Do you think, as the Daily Mail is trying to make happen just by saying it over and over again, that Keir Starmer's Christmas in number 10 Downing Street is not only his first, but probably his last?
I mean, it's difficult to say, isn't it? Because on the one hand, there could be an element of wishful thinking here. I mean, he does have, on paper, a very large majority. The problem is, as we all know, that was one on 34% of the vote, which is incredibly low. So it's one of those things where his authority has already been quite threadbare. We always knew this was a guy who wasn't really ready for prime time, doesn't really know what he stands for, as all the charisma of a damp rag and all the rest of it. So it's one of those things where it really does come down to where does the challenge from him come from within his own party? They're not going to rush to another election anytime soon, but is there anyone who's really going to be... Is it going to hit such crisis point that they reckon they have to remove him? Whereas the story of his government so far has just been one of everything drifting along and trundling along rather than it really hitting any kind of crisis point so far, I suppose.
I wonder if there will be some rumblings in the new year. A lot of Labour MPs, particularly in rural areas, I speak to a lot of farmers on my show, and they're saying their local MPs, Labour MPs, are adrift. They're incandescent. They weren't consulted about the inheritance tax rate. There's 100 Labour MPs in rural constituencies. And then let's talk about the winter fuel allowance. There are a huge amount of majorities around the country that are very slim, where far more pensioners in those constituencies lost their winter fuel allowance. If even a few of them voted on a single issue, the Labour Party is in a lot of trouble on different fronts. And when that pressure starts to mount, OK, we're still a few years away from a general election, there's going to be a lot of disgruntled Labour MPs saying, I wasn't consulted on this, but now I'm on the receiving end of it from angry constituents.
No, absolutely. And you think about some of the policies in relation to farming and inheritance tax. Also, even things which I think are relatively good policies that the government is pursuing in terms of planning. That's something which has always been difficult to get over the line in rural constituencies, which tend to be anti-building for various different reasons. Previously, those were Tory seats, which is why it was very difficult for them to do planning reform. Now many of them are Labour seats. And whilst a lot of them are new MPs keen to, be on the side of the leadership, there's a certain point in which your constituents trump that. So will they be able to navigate all of this? Given the fact that also Keir Starmer is not a politician of particular vision or, communication gifts. This is someone who has basically got a very difficult hand.
He's had a charisma bypass, hasn't he?
There's no two ways about that.
And whatever, even if you approve of his policies and you like his politics, you have to agree. It's just one accident after another, isn't it? He doesn't seem to have the charisma to be able to slide over it or to convince us that he's doing the right thing. So could there be, rumblings in the rest of... I mean, who would make a better Prime Minister from the Labour ranks than him?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Because there's no obvious kind of king over the water. There's no clear campaign yet. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Wes Streeting, who is obviously a much more articulate, compelling figure in some respects. But at the same time, we're not at the point now where he's kind of setting up the phone banks and calling around various different Labour MPs and trying to curry favour. This is very much early days.
What about Angela Rayner?
Angela Rayner, again, very popular with the grassroots. Whether or not she's someone who could be seen to lead the party, I suppose, is a different question.
As Labour woman Prime Minister, she would be, wouldn't she?
No, absolutely, which could be something which is tempting for a lot of people in the party. But I think the thing about Keir Starmer generally is he was always supposed to be like the caretaker leader, really, a transitional figure.
For whom?
For someone to come along afterwards, a kind of Kinnock, but with even less potential electoral appeal. And he's ended up becoming Prime Minister because of the collapse of the Tories. Now we're seeing the consequences of all of that, I suppose.
All eyes, of course, will be on the acid test, the big regional elections, the council elections in May. And there's already been rumblings about the redrawing of constitutional boundaries to try and kick some of those elections into the grass. Now, Number 10 said that won't happen, but there is a sense that a new government with a shallow but wide majority, 40% of people, as you said, just stayed at home. They were so despondent with the entire political offering, they weren't even bothered about getting off their sofas. And many people think, who can blame them? So with that backdrop, a shallow majority and people motivated for change, might we see a real result for insurgent parties in May?
That could certainly be the case. I think the reform momentum is not slowing down, and they're a big challenge to Labour constituencies. They came second in, 98 seats in the general election. The vast majority of them are now Labour seats.
But
so if that maps onto the electoral...
Let's make that the next subject we talk about when you're back, yes, in just under an hour's time. Because we've got to move on to our poll of the day, and at GB News, we love to hear what you think. And our poll of the day today is... Do you agree with the government's new grocery tax in order to hit net zero targets? We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure you stay tuned. The final result will be announced later in Nana Akwe's show, and you know how to get all the latest info on that. Go to gbnews.com/poll.
Great, well, thank you, Tom Slater. And let's have a look now at some other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
Well, President-elect Donald Trump has chosen a British TV executive as his special envoy to the UK. Mark Burnett, he's the man who actually created The Apprentice, the programme that, of course, rocketed Mr. Trump to international fame. In a statement, Trump said it was a great honour to hire his former colleague.
You're hired. And the RSPCA is facing a backlash after TV presenter Chris Packham and also the former Green Party MP Caroline Lucas quit the charity over cruelty claims. And that's after activist group Animal Rising released footage allegedly showing animal cruelty from an abattoir on the charity's approved list. Now, in response, the RSPCA has said it takes allegations of poor animal welfare incredibly seriously.
And Princess Beatrice will be joining the royal family at Sandringham this Christmas after changing her travel plans because of medical advice. She and her husband are expecting their second child in early spring. And before changing their plans, apparently they were going to spend the festive period in Italy with her in-laws.
Okay, it's looking a bit windy out there. Let's take a look now at your weather with Craig Snell.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. Well, as we look ahead towards Christmas, after a very windy and cold feeling day today, actually the weather does turn milder as we approach Christmas Day itself, but with plenty of cloud too. Back to the here and now for Sunday. It's going to be a very windy day, as I mentioned, across many parts, but especially so for many northern and western areas. Warnings are in force from the Met Office right throughout the day, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, it's really going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers across many parts. Showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground in the north, and that strength of the wind really is going to make things feel bitterly cold. On the thermometer, we could see highs reaching around 7 to 9, but certainly feeling sub-zero, especially for parts of Scotland. So as we end the day, still some further showers moving in across many parts of Scotland. The sleet and snow across the high ground could just give a little bit of ice in places. Maybe fewer showers for Northern Ireland and the rest of England and Wales, with the clearest of the skies really over towards the far southeastern corner. Moving towards the early hours of Monday morning, the winds will gradually ease across many parts. That allows more in the way of clear skies to develop. So we probably will see a widespread frost developing as we start Monday morning. Could just still see a few showers across Scotland, again just maintaining a risk of some ice here. But most towns and cities falling down to low single figures, in the countryside certainly below freezing. So Monday morning itself, a bright but frosty start for a lot of us. Plenty of crisp winter sunshine to be had, but out towards the west, thicker cloud, outbreaks of rain moving in, and that will herald something a little bit milder moving in. So temperatures gradually rising in the west as we go through Monday, but out towards the east, hanging on to the colder conditions for one more day. But here we will maintain with the sunshine right throughout the afternoon.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Debbie's been in touch. She said, morning, everyone, from a very cold and rainy Stoke. Stoke-on-Trent, I presume. But I've also had a message from Jenny. Morning, Jenny. Actually, it's probably evening where you are. She says, a very Merry Christmas from Ian and Jenny in Australia. I used to know them very well. Come and enjoy a 36-degree day in Adelaide on Christmas Day. Wow.
I spent the day on Bondi Beach once in Australia when it was Christmas Day, and it felt completely and utterly wrong. I sat there in an England shirt, in shorts and flip-flops, and it was like, it should be cold. It was great.
Yeah.
But it just felt wrong that it was hot at Christmas.
Oh, no, it was lovely. Absolutely lovely. Anyway, to everybody in Australia, I hope you do have a wonderful, wonderful warm day in Australia on Christmas Day, but we ain't getting there. With that,
hold on to your hats. And anyway, next up, because Christmas is coming and there's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our festive treat to you, an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. It's the biggest and ever Great British giveaway here at GB News, and all of that tax-free cash could be yours. Here's the details that you need to enter.
There's just 3 sleeps till Christmas, and all through the land, GB News has the chance to win a nifty 50 grand. That's cash for the new year. You could go on a spree. And the best thing about it, it's totally tax-free. From Santa with love, you could be our winner. Just enter right now, or right after Christmas dinner. It's a cracker of a prize, guaranteed to enthrall. From all of us at GB News, Merry Christmas to you all.
For another chance to win, text cash to 6 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed, but if that money doesn't do it for you, how about a lovely pork pie? Elizabeth, morning Elizabeth, says, you can't beat a lovely warm pork pie. And when you bite into it, all the juices run down your chin.
Ooh.
Absolutely beautiful.
It's all good.
And then Alex says, oh, Martin, we used to have a hot counter, Albert Hurst pork pies from Barnsley. Every shop had a counter hot oven, and they would be warm with lovely juice dripping out of them. We also had a pie and pea van once a week come round, and we would go out with our dishes and get a pork pie and peas and put it in. Pork pies must be hot and have juice in them.
You see, we started a debate here because, of course, for many people, they've never known the delights of a hot pork pie. They're all served from the refrigerator, but like I say, I used to take them out of the oven at Pork Farms and have it hot. Absolutely joyous. This mushroom cloud of steam comes out. Heaven.
Oh, Philip says I like pork pies, hot or cold, but my favourite is warmed up with mushy peas and mint sauce.
Ooh.
It's a big favourite in West Yorkshire, especially on bonfire night.
Can't beat it. Beautiful stuff. Thank you very much. And keep those porky pie messages coming in. Now, still to come. Christmas can, of course, be a hard time for some people, and we'll be finding out how to support those in need this festive season. That's next. This is Breakfast here with Martin and Anne.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
It seems that the younger generation's interest in literature is waning. Academics argue that educational policies have failed to encourage reading for pleasure, contributing to declining numbers of English literature students and a shift towards young adult books rather than classic novels. According to 2023 figures from the National Literacy Trust, the number of 8 to 18-year-olds who say they enjoy reading has sunk to its lowest level for almost 20 years, with a quarter fewer reading each day over that same time period. To share more with us about this topic, I'm joined now by the journalist Charlotte Lytton. Charlotte, welcome back. Lovely to talk to you again. Tell us your perspective on this issue. What is happening?
Well, speaking to academics, we can't deny, it seems, that there is a big problem here, and it starts right at school. As you read there, young children simply don't enjoy reading for pleasure as they did before. We can't deny that is also a massive part because of smartphones, because kids now are faced with all of these things vying for their attention. They just don't have to sit down and entertain themselves with a long book and nothing else as they did before. As we see from those figures with people going to study humanities at university, the decline is just going all the way because people simply are not interested in reading for pleasure as they were.
Do you get any feeling that education policy or that teachers are taking steps to counter this?
Well, there is a review of the curriculum going ahead right now, but school is a huge part of it. One of the things that has come up in this conversation is whether teachers now are dealing with crowd control, which means they can't simply encourage reading for pleasure because they're simply trying to get a hold of the students they have.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here
We do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, with just, 4 days to Christmas?
3 sleeps?
3 sleeps, yeah. Everybody's saying Happy Christmas to each other, which is lovely. But not everybody's Christmas can be happy. A charity in the West Midlands, Silence of Suicide, or SOS, is appealing for donations after calls to their helpline tripled in the months leading up to December.
Yeah, and they're urging people who might be struggling in the next couple of weeks to reach out, promoting their message with the help of a very, very special charity single.
Well, our reporter Jack Carson has the story.
In the darkness of winter's night.
Christmas can be a hard time for many. In the last 2 months, calls to a suicide helpline based in Warwickshire have tripled. In the lead up to this year's festivities, the SOS Silence of Suicide call centre received 16,500 calls. That's up from 5,600 calls during the same period of October and November last year. So, this Christmas, they've released an advert encouraging people to reach out if they're struggling. The charity provides a safe, confidential space for people who are experiencing poor emotional health and having suicidal thoughts.
So this is Anna, our very first hub, and Anna goes out and about into local communities.
CEO Yvette Greenway Mansfield breaks down the data.
What we're finding at the moment is financial problems are coming up a lot. That isn't really surprising, but I think people in this day and age, sadly, there are a lot of people that are really struggling financially generally, but then you add Christmas into that, and just like birthdays. But for people who can't give because they simply don't have the means to do that, they're already feeling, disillusioned, down, but we're all expected to smile and behave like everything's okay and there's no worries.
Alongside their Christmas advert, they've released the song Find Your Light, written by Lorna Hackett and performed by Bournemouth's Resonate Choir and singers Marsha Webb and Ava Mason-Allen. Lorna is a trustee of the charity and describes the process of putting the song together.
What I wanted to do is capture some of the essence of the holiday season while also acknowledging that for quite a lot of people, not everybody's having a great time. So it was about trying to show those people who might be struggling at this time of year for whatever reason, that there were also reasons to be hopeful.
The charity hopes the advert can raise money for training volunteer call handlers and more mobile well-being hubs they can take into communities to offer mental health support. Peter Goddard lost his daughter to suicide in 2019 and as director of the Valor Foundation supports the organisation. He says if you're suffering, there's always hope.
What you might be suffering from isn't something that necessarily you need to go through on your own, and you should be unafraid about coming forwards and admitting a condition which really you don't have any control over. The more you suffer in silence, the more likely you are to suffer.
Christmas can be difficult, but the message from this charity is support is out there and you don't have to suffer alone. Jack Carson, GB News, Warwickshire.
Thank you. Special thank you to Jack Carson for bringing us that report, because it is terribly important to remember that some people really suffer at Christmas.
Yeah, that's right. The feelings of isolation and that can kick in if you're on your own. But reach out to your mates.
He's a busy boy, Jack Carson, actually,
Yeah.
our reporter, because yesterday at this time he was outside the Birmingham Christmas market.
Yeah.
He's had a good year, actually.
Just want to say,
Well
actually,
done,
a special
Jack.
thank you to Jack Carlson, also Sophie Reaper, Anna Riley, Will Hollis, Tony
Yeah.
Maguire and Doogie Beattie, I think our national
Who
reporters
are
this year.
ambassadors
Yeah.
for their region, which
Yeah.
I think it makes you very, very proud.
Yeah, they're out there getting stories, and thank you very, very much to them for all their hard work this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many of you are still talking about pork pies. I can't believe what's happened. Why are we all talking about pork pies? It's crazy. But we'll have a look at Melton Mowbray a bit later on with our reporter Will Hollis.
Certainly will. Now, during Advent, as we count down to Christmas Day, we're hearing from church ministers across the country. And each day they have a very special message for you to celebrate the festive season. And here's today's.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 22.
Hi, I'm Chris Tufnell. I'm the vicar of Uterbridge Parish Church near Sheffield. At the end of the month, Buckingham Palace is going to publish the King's New Year Honours List. To get on that list, you have to do something really extraordinary, and it's often the result of a lifetime of work and achievement. Contrast that with how we'll honour each other on Christmas Day with the giving of presents, given not as a reward, but simply out of love. That second kind of honouring is what Christmas is all about. Jesus is the King who came at Christmas, not to honour extraordinary people for a lifetime of outstanding service, but to honour ordinary people, carpenters like Joseph, scared new mums like Mary, people working night shifts to try and make ends meet like the shepherds. He came to honour people like you and me. The Bible says, to those who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. That is the highest of honours, and it's on offer to you. Happy Christmas.
I absolutely love those messages. I think they've been wonderful all month, and you can see all of our special Advent messages as Christmas approaches by going to gbnews.com/Advent. And, of course, a very, very Merry Christmas.
Yeah. We've got lots more to talk about, including how to warm a pork pie properly and safely. Because I think a lot of people are getting in touch saying they're very worried about releasing hot gelatine, really. So you've got to figure out how to warm up your pork pie safely.
Don't worry. We'll tell you how to do it safely very, very soon, and it's worth it. Hot pork pies are something that very few people these days have ever even tried, but getting inundated with messages of people's reminiscences saying how much they used to love a hot porky.
Margot says, I'm sipping my coffee in bed, watching and listening and working out how many calories per pork pie.
Don't do that.
Don't worry about the calorie count. It's Christmas.
Worry about that in the new year. Now, still to come, the dust-up in the desert, Fury versus Usyk in Riyadh last night. But what do you make of it? That's next. And this is GB News Breakfast with Martin and Anne.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This week is Chocolate Week, the ultimate celebration of everything rich, sweet and indulgent.
Yes, and we now have the best person in the studio with us to satisfy all of your chocolate cravings. We're joined now by master chocolatier Ollie the Choc. Ollie, really good to see you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And you brought some of your chocolate in with you.
I did. I brought some tasting samples. You're very welcome to help yourself.
So what have you got here? Tell us.
So this is my signature chocolate. I call it the Holy Grail. It's got sea salt flakes, crushed Oreo, caramel fudge pieces, very Moorish.
I love a caramel and salt combo, just, you know. I feel like you see it everywhere now. Look,
you won't be disappointed.
Look, I want everyone to see a close-up of this one. Can we get a shot on this one? So this is Oreo, there we are, caramel and salt. Do you want to try some?
You go first. Help yourselves. And then this bar of chocolate is a little bit of a wild card. That's a mystery flavour. So
OK, I love a mystery.
I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Hold on this one. This one's amazing.
Are you?
Oreo, caramel.
That's my biggest seller.
I'll keep my palate clean for this. So this is a mystery flavour.
You've got to guess what that is.
Is that a nut in there, I see? Right, here we go. Ready?
I'm not saying anything.
Talk us through.
Very crunchy.
For me, I'm all about textures in chocolate.
Me too.
It has got a good crunch to it, hasn't it? It's not the kind of flavour that you would expect.
Oh, I can't get it.
Is it sweet? Is it salty?
No, it's salty, yeah.
It's
OK,
salty.
Hang, bit more.
OK.
Bit more.
I mean, just keep going.
Crisps? Wait,
It is crispy, it's crunchy. Could it be crisps?
I think it could be crisps. Yeah, it's crisps.
So what flavour?
Salt and vinegar. It's onion.
Yes,
Salt and vinegar.
You know.
Oh, you're much better than me.
Love that.
Do you know what? I think I've got a bit of a cold, so my taste buds are
Oh, you're going to blame that, are you?
That's my excuse. That's delicious.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 7:38. You're watching Breakfast and listening to us with Martin and Anne.
Yeah, Aidan's here. There was the big fight overnight.
Absolutely. And I think it lived up to expectations as well. And actually, I mean, this was Usyk versus Fury the second. And, all right, it was a unanimous decision. We'll come on to the AI judge in a minute. I mean, that wasn't part of it, but it's an interesting adjunct. But... yeah, OK, well, I didn't think it was unanimous necessarily, but I do think Usyk won.
All right, I was going to say who won,
yes,
because there may be people who are just waking up right now.
Indeed, that unifies the belts. I mean, he was a holder already, WBA, WBO, WBC, so all-star cast in the crowd. Jason Statham among those onlooking.
Oh.
Tyson Fury came on to his ring walk was All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey. And what was interesting is that 116 to 112 were what the three judges called it. There were some British broadcasters who they instinctively side to the British fighter.
They always do.
They always do, yeah. But I think the judges got it right. What was trialled last night, didn't count towards the scores, was the idea of an AI judge.
Yeah.
And let's just have a look, because this is what they advertised last night.
Robo-judge.
It could give an insight into how boxing judging is scored in the future. And what it does, what it potentially do, rather, is eliminate the prospects of any bias taking place.
And I'll tell you what, for the sake of our radio listeners, you better describe it as well.
Yes.
Are we going...
Hi, I'm the first ever AI boxing judge, and I'm here to bring fairness to the ring. I analyze every round, every move, and every decisive moment during the fight, displaying real-time metrics like aggression, landed punches, impact...
So it scores
and the voice you can hear is the voice of the AI judge,
yes,
who looks like a snooker player.
Yeah, it does. That's what I thought, yeah. I thought he was going to go and win the World Masters or something at Wembley. But, yeah, that...
So how many cameras do you think they've got on?
Oh, it'd have to be
boxing?
loads. It'd have to be loads, because they have to capture so many angles, because so much stuff happens off the, outside the
and
line
then
of vision.
somebody's written the programme where they analyse what is being
Yes.
physically seen.
And you would assume that it would evolve over time as well. But there were plenty of people on social media last night, usually Fury fans, saying that the AI judge got it wrong and that maybe it's just it's VR. It's boxing's version of VAR.
I wonder if that's the point, because I don't like VAR. I think it makes the sport sterile. I like arguing about biased referees.
Well,
I
it's
think
part of the story, isn't it? It keeps us in work.
Yeah, it's like, do we want everything to be stripped of human interaction, human comprehension? Is everything going to be robotic?
Well, as my science teacher said to me 30-odd years ago, nothing is 100% efficient. We've even seen that we've certainly seen that with VAR. We've even seen it with goal line technology in football. But nonetheless, it was an interesting aside to what really happened last night. But it was interesting that the AI judge scored it 118, 112. The three judges were 116, 112, and it wasn't too far out.
They agreed.
Yeah. Not far off, yeah. Not far.
Have we got time to quickly talk about Nottingham Forest?
Well, why not?
Because as some people might know, watching the show, I'm a Forest fan. In fact, I'm going to see them actually on Boxing Day at City Ground playing Spurs. But Forest are fourth. Now, even the wildest, most optimistic or even semi-drunk Forest fan would have thought fourth would be incredible. No. I can't believe it's happening, really.
No,
it's
exactly.
been a huge season for us.
Well, also, going to Brentford as well. Right, Brentford might be mid-table, but they've got an extraordinary home record. Yeah. 26 goals they'd scored before yesterday. So to go there and nullify them and stop them from scoring is an achievement in itself. To score a goal in either side of half-time and go and win it, and to be top four after 17 games is extraordinary, and well done to your boys for that. Manchester City, when is this horrible run going to end? One win in 12 matches, Hans. We're used to talking about them just winning processionally every single week for the last 5-10 years, whatever, aren't we? Especially under Pep Guardiola since 2016. And he seems at a loss to explain why they're not winning these matches. Erling Haaland, goal scorer extraordinaire, came forward yesterday and said, I'm to blame for this. It's not just about Rodri's injury. But either way, I mean, they're how many points are they off? I've got it written down somewhere. I think they're about 9 points off the top at the moment. They've played 2 games more than Liverpool, who are in action today against Southampton. I want to touch on the darts as well, if I possibly can. Luke Littler averaged 140 in his 3-1 win yesterday against Jason Meikle or Meikle. And that just sets a bar there, just shows how outstanding it is. And no wonder he's emotional in his interview. And I'm going to the darts tonight. Hospitality from 6:30.
You cushy what's it?
Oh, yeah, you better
what's it? There'll be plenty of what's in there.
You better make sure you got your walking stick after that one. Thank you very much. Aidan McGee, beautiful bullseye as ever. Thank you.
And thank you to Kath from this email. She says, thank you so much for mentioning the regional presenters. It's been a joy watching Jack, Will, Anna and Sophie develop and mature over the last couple of years.
Agreed.
And are now confident and knowledgeable presenters who brighten our day. And the news from reporters in Scotland and Northern Ireland are always welcome. Well done, all of them, and never change your accents.
Absolutely agree.
And
well done.
I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
I must say, it's one of the things I'm proudest of being at GB News, is the way some of our younger people have been encouraged in this very difficult industry.
Absolutely.
And are doing so blinking well.
Yeah, well
we
done,
are very proud of them.
Well done. Have an extra slice of pork pie. Now, if you are in search of some winter sun this year, here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest Winter Sun forecast. If you're travelling over the Christmas period, it's certainly going to remain unsettled for central parts of the Mediterranean. There's an area of low pressure, brings some strong winds, some heavy rain and also some snow to the higher levels. Something a little bit quieter for parts of Iberia, plenty of sunshine to be had here, but then down towards the Canaries, still the risk of some showers, although it will improve here as we approach Christmas Day itself. Temperatures in Madeira reaching around 20 degrees on Christmas Day.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
I'm joined with Ryan Mark Parsons, who's a TV personality, a columnist, and he was on The Apprentice a few years back, weren't you? That's where most people would recognise your face from. One of the youngest contenders ever on The Apprentice. How did that work out?
Well, you know what? I never in a million years thought I'd get on the show. I was 18 when I applied. There were about 6 months of auditions. It was intense. You met Lord Sugar's advisors, his lawyers, his business advisors. It was the most intense thing I've ever done. And I just thought, never in a million years am I going to get on the show as a teenager. And I got the call from the exec. And he was like, you're one of the 16 candidates. And it was just like, really? So I took a gap year. I've just finished my A-levels. I was working in Harrods before. And I just came up with this business idea, took it onto the show. And I got fired in the end. I lasted 8 weeks, which wasn't too bad. But
what was the business idea? Educate
a concierge, similar to companies like Velocity Black, quintessentially, that work with some of the private banks. It was similar to that. I was inspired by my time in Harrods, working with some of these ultra high net worth clients. So I just wrote a 40-page business plan like we all have to do. But I didn't make it to the interview, so I didn't get to talk about it. But no, it was a great experience, a very tough experience, but unforgettable.
So at a young age, how did that change your life at that age? Because you must have got recognised, starting to be recognised when you're going out and about town.
Yeah, I mean, it happened quite quickly because the adverts start rolling out on BBC One and then the shows go on air. It's once a week on a Wednesday. You're getting about 7 million people tuning in every week.
Yep.
And yeah, it was surreal. It was surreal. And then suddenly you get invitations to things. You're going to premieres and it was a lot. It was a lot at a young age. And I obviously had no training for any of that. But I just embraced it and I've had fun with it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 7:47. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Martin and Anne.
Well, joining us to go through the newspapers now, political commentator Lynn May and social campaigner Winston Davis.
Right, Winston, shall we start with a story which has really caught my eye here? Police targets drug gangs who exploit youngsters.
Yeah, so they've big crackdown on county line gangs this year. They've had nearly 600 people arrested, 410 county lines gangs shut down. The last week, 1,600 people have been nicked with £3 million worth of Class A drugs. Taken. Look, Martin, as we know, I've been to prison for drugs, got caught with 30 kilos of cannabis. I know, about this area. My thing is that we spoke before, this is unwinnable.
Yeah.
The drugs industry, the drugs trade is unwinnable. The demand for it is too high. We've got nearly 10% of the population use drugs in the last 12 months. So we've got a choice. You're going to either tax it and regulate it and legalise it the same way we do with alcohol and tobacco and all of that, or you're going to have to continue on fighting this. Every week we pick up a story, drugs gangs have been shut down. Google drugs gang today. Another drugs gang has been shut down. You're not stopping it because the demand is too high. The City of London, the Parliament, people are using Class A drugs.
And when you see a police raid, there's the amount of drugs is colossal inside, your average Victorian semi or something.
But
it's extraordinary.
I'm never going to give a pass to criminals, but there did used to be a little bit of honour historically. I mean, when I grew up, not in a great area, Tottenham, if maybe a young person wanted to, as young as maybe 12, some of the older guys or whatever that was doing whatever would say, no, you're too young. But now it's like they're easy picking. And quickly a story, someone close to me, he can speak to me, but he couldn't speak to his mother, said, someone's come up to me saying I can get new trainers if I just get a coach from London to Oxford. And I knew straight away what it meant. They were trying to groom him. And me working in housing, we have to go into these houses and see children all the time. So for parents as well, especially around this period, we need to be having conversations with our children. We need to be doing it. So if you don't want the police to strip search your children, you do it first. When children come in, see what they've got on their person.
And also, the problem with this is that there's been a lot of a conversation about we shouldn't be searching children, it's a violation of their human rights, except I would counter to that, the drug gangs, the leaders, the Mr. Bigs, they know that children are less likely to get stopped and searched. They know.
Yes, so they're being exploited.
Right, they're specifically targeting them and grooming them for that specific reason. Winston.
But just if you go rewind on this, right? I have teenage boys, OK? My sister has teenage boys. They are not going to be out getting targeted by drugs gangs, right? The reality of it is this, that these children are being targeted because they are vulnerable, because they come from homes that are broken, because they're coming from poverty, because they've been expelled from school. There's a clear link and drive from expulsion from school to prison. So this is the underlying social issues here are almost more important than the thing of stopping and searching. Yes, stopping and searching will stop the plaster, but it won't stop the root cause of it.
Well, everybody always says, don't they, when kids are exploited in this way, where were the parents?
The parents
is that right? Is that the right thing to say?
Do you know what? I do think that's slightly challenging, though, when we're going through a cost of living crisis. The reality is single motherhood is on the rise and she has to put food on the table. Sometimes she will have to go to work and not get back till 7, and 12, 13 and 14-year-olds are at home on their own. What are they doing? They're going out. They're seeing how they can make a bit of pocket money in unsavoury ways. So, yes, someone can do their best. But as you said, if there is intervention where the police, along with social services, have got a tip-off or they feel concerned about a young person, what is wrong with seeing what's on the person?
But there's something going drastically wrong in society if we're saying, there's more single mums, therefore kids are just going out and dealing drugs. We shouldn't just be accepting that.
No, we want joined up thinking. But
Yeah,
then
we shouldn't accept...
That's a whole other conversation, but that is still the reality. There's a lot more, you know, unplanned. Nuclear families isn't the thing which is holding families together. Before, it was unthinkable to have a child.
The parents should be telling the kids drug dealing is a terrible life choice.
It easily said than done, but we would have people in housing where they would call as young as 15 and they would pay their mother's debts, and sometimes the parents allow it because they don't have any money.
Gosh.
So what do you do?
All right, let's move on to something a little bit more cheerful, because this is me. I'm one of those lastminute.com mugs. Shoppers splashing 2.8 billion quid on last-minute gifts, Lynn.
Yes, so it's dubbed Manic Monday, and we will see around 16 million shoppers online, an in-store splurge of 1.46 billion. Now, I'm torn about this because we need to see growth, don't we? We want to see people on the high street. We want to see people online as well, generating that income, especially after that budget and lack of growth. But at the same time, we've also seen credit card debt go up. On average from last year, it's over £300 per adult. So it's like, you know, how are we spending the money? Is it debt? Are we going to be in more debt? But yeah, we all wait to the last minute, don't we? I think especially with the comfortability of knowing I can just go online and quickly press a button and it will come the next day.
Click,
is that
click.
you?
Yeah, it is. Click, click, click.
Except that even Amazon can't get the parcel to you, I think, probably can't guarantee that you'll get it before Christmas now. You've actually got to go out and do a bit of shopping now.
Windsor, can we quickly squeeze in? I know this thing on the Grinch, Reeve, stealing money out of your shopping basket. You've been doing a social initiative to try and help with this.
Yeah, well, look, Grinch is the Grinch. Reeves has taken they increased the national insurance contributions to 45%, which is 45p per pound, which is basically taking money out of charities. I'm a chair of a charity. We do various things for young people, and this is going to hit charities hard. Today and tomorrow, we're doing a give back for the local community that was struggling for food, and it's like you can't target the people that don't have the money. You know, so there's got to be someone. I mean, the Lib Dems, Conservatives all said, look, let's put a concession in for charities. There should be a concession for charities, you know?
OK, superb. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much. It's been a great newspaper review, and we'll have plenty more in the next hour. Thank you to Winston, and thank you to Lynn.
Right now, time for the weather with Craig Snell.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Metaverse. Well, as we look ahead towards Christmas, after a very windy and cold feeling day today, actually the weather does turn milder as we approach Christmas Day itself, but with plenty of cloud too. Back to the here and now for Sunday. It's going to be a very windy day, as I mentioned, across many parts, but especially so for many northern and western areas. Warnings are in force from the Met Office right throughout the day, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, it's really going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers across many parts. Showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground in the north, and that strength of the wind really is going to make things feel bitterly cold. On the thermometer, we could see highs reaching around 7 to 9, but certainly feeling sub-zero, especially for parts of Scotland. So as we end the day, still some further showers moving in across many parts of Scotland. The sleet and snow across the high ground could just give a little bit of ice in places. Maybe fewer showers for Northern Ireland and the rest of England and Wales, with the clearest of the skies really over towards the far southeastern corner. Moving towards the early hours of Monday morning, the winds will gradually ease across many parts. That allows more in the way of clear skies to develop. So we probably will see a widespread frost developing as we start Monday morning. Could just still see a few showers across Scotland, again just maintaining a risk of some ice here. But most towns and cities falling down to low single figures, in the countryside certainly below freezing. So Monday morning itself, a bright but frosty start for a lot of us. Plenty of crisp winter sunshine to be had, but out towards the west, thicker cloud, outbreaks of rain moving in, and that will herald something a little bit milder moving in. So temperatures gradually rising in the west as we go through Monday, but out towards the east, hanging on to the colder conditions for one more day. But here we will maintain with the sunshine right throughout the afternoon.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m.
Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. A very good morning to you. The whole of Germany stands in dark hours with the people of Magdeburg.
We now know that 4 adults and a 9-year-old child were killed, with more than 200 other people injured.
And a 50-year-old man accused of their murder has been remanded into custody.
Now, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has been called a Christmas Grinch, as it's revealed that her tax changes in the budget means that 45 pence in every pound that you donate to charity will now effectively go to the taxman.
And the cost of the Green Dream, a new grocery tax designed to achieve the government's net zero targets, will push up your household shopping bills by up to £1.4 billion a year.
In Britain's rural capital of food, bakers are working tirelessly to ensure that every dinner table has a traditional pork pie for Christmas Day. Our reporter Will Hollis has been meeting the communities making them.
Beautiful. And as animal rights campaigners target festive trail hunts, we're asking today, should we ban the activity?
Tyson Fury failed in his bid for revenge against undisputed world heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk last night, losing on a unanimous decision in Riyadh. And in the Premier League, another defeat for Manchester City, but Nottingham Forest march into the top 4. More later.
Good morning. It's a cold and blustery day for most of us today, but temperatures are on the rise as we approach Christmas Day. Find out all the weather details with me coming up a little later on.
Forest in the top 4, Christmas came early. Now it's just gone 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm Martin Daubney.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast. Well, pork pies and what we were just talking about...
mushy peas?
Parsley sauce.
Parsley sauce. Had some last night.
Now, that doesn't go with a pork pie, but how did we end up talking about that is what we were talking about.
It's like gammon steak, wasn't it?
Gammon.
Or pork bacon.
Yeah. I love parsley sauce so much I could drink the stuff. It's absolutely beautiful, isn't it?
I like if you put an extra knob of butter in and whisk it up. Mum's the same as you. I can pour an entire sachet just onto my plate. The kids don't even get a look in.
No.
It's gone.
No, so and this is the time for it, Christmas, when it's cold and miserable and everything.
Yes.
Now's the time for what I used to call nursery food. Comfort food.
Heat. It's a heat as well, isn't it? It's the heat we like.
We'll talk pork pies in a few minutes' time. We've got that special report coming all the way from Melton Mowbray, which is the home of the pork pie. But yeah, do get in touch with any comfort foods that you really fancy at this time of year.
I wonder if parsley sauce would work on pork pie. I'm prepared to give it a whirl.
Look, I think cooking is all about experimentation, as I'll show on Christmas Day when I bring in my pear and celeriac soup for Patrick and Emily. But
pear and celeriac was lovely.
Last year I tried tomato and orange. The year before it was chestnuts. I like to sort of throw something different into the mix. It's not necessarily a Christmas delicacy, but sometimes we like a bit of light food on Christmas Day because the main course is very heavy, isn't it?
Get yourself in there for MasterChef, son. Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, there's a vacancy, I've heard.
There is, yeah.
Not any longer, I don't think. You weren't in there fast enough.
Moving swiftly onwards, the Chancellor has been labelled a Christmas Grinch as her budget tax grab means that 45 pence in every single pound donated to charity will now go straight into the government's coffers.
It's going to put a lot of people off donating. We've already been many of you have got in touch this morning saying that. In total, Labour's national insurance raid will add £1.4 billion to wage bills in the voluntary sector, which is already, of course, struggling amid rising housing and grocery costs.
Yeah, and talking of grocery costs, on the topic of that, ministers are also being accused today of quietly passing a net zero bill, which will see retailers and manufacturers charge for their packaging, a cost, of course, that's likely to be passed on to you, the consumers.
Well, we're joined by the editor of Spite Online, Tom Slater. Morning again, Tom. It does, I mean, on the face of it, and I suppose that's the thing that a Labour front bench will believe very strongly, that we have to try and encourage food manufacturers and retailers to use less and less packaging. But actually, this is a tax that's just going to be passed to the consumer, isn't it?
No, absolutely, and that's what the government's own estimates have suggested. DEFRA have looked at the impact, potentially, of this new policy, which has been quietly passed by secondary legislation, and they reckon it's going to be somewhere between 85% to 100% of the cost of this will be passed on to the consumer. It is always this way, and I think slowly but surely the public is starting to realise that these net zero policies, it's not about asking business to do a bit more, to be a bit more efficient, to go a bit greener where they might otherwise not bother. It's going to be them footing the bill for it, and this is another example of that.
I wonder if people are going to start backlashing to this in the new year, because this is a tax that's been levied on business, but it's been directly shunted down the line into our grocery baskets. We're seeing the same with boilers. The boiler tax, the boiler manufacturers saying, well, we're not going to pay it. Now, why should we be fined to give people heat pumps they don't want? We're going to increase the price of gas boilers, which means that you and I have to pay more for our boilers. It's the same with electric vehicles. Are people, do you think, Tom, starting to wake up to the idea that net zero, it might be saving the planet, but it's not saving me any blooming money?
No, absolutely. And this has always been the unspoken truth about this whole agenda, which is that if you ask people, you poll them in general, are you concerned about the environment? Do you think we should do something about climate change? You get a very solid majority that say, of course, yes. As soon as you ask them, are you willing to pay even quite a modest amount in taxation or extra costs or whatever, it falls through the floor. Because quite understandably, people expect the job of government is to make your life easier, to make your life more prosperous. And the thing about this whole agenda is it completely inverts that. It says you're going to have to put up with paying more for less in order to save the planet. But then people look at this and say, we're 1% of global emissions. Is this just a complete waste of our time in the first place?
Yeah, but I mean, we were talking earlier about whether this government does its impact assessment properly in the wake of, or as they're planning certain things like this. I mean, David has been in touch. Morning, David, saying this government is the lowest of the low. How can they sleep at night? Because people are going to stop giving to charities. This is what's going to happen.
No, absolutely. And also those charities are going to have to lay off staff or cut back services. That was always going to be the consequence of this. They were warned about this, of course, and yet they chose to ignore it. And, of course, they're very wedded to this tough decisions narrative, this idea that we were given such a terrible inheritance from the Conservatives that therefore there's certain things that we cannot do. But I think one thing they've always lacked is any kind of political nous and sense of where the public is at, who after not only the past few years we've had with the pandemic and the lockdowns and the war in Europe and so on, which has really hit people very hard, but basically ever since 2008, people have had to put up with a hell of a lot. The idea that more bitter medicine and it might get a bit better in the near future is not really going to work with people anymore.
And Tom, we're always told, oh, this won't impact working people. But if working people are being laid off because charities can't afford to employ them, if working people are having to pay more for their groceries because of net zero targets, if working people are paying more for their boilers, it's just moving things around. It's for the birds. People are paying more. Provably, people are worse off. And it seems at the moment we're heading towards a recession because inflation is spiralling. And if your groceries are going up, that's a key indicator of inflation.
No, absolutely. And it's one of those things where if this government really wanted to be credible on the economy, if it really wanted to be growth-focused, laser-like focus on growth is what we were told, they would quietly shelve this net zero stuff. But they're as attached to it, if not more so, than the previous Conservative government, which is worth saying a lot of these policies that we're talking about were put in train by Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, etc.
Yes, including Waspies, the payout to Waspies. I don't know whether this government at all thought that wouldn't kick them in the face, but it really has done.
No,
it's
really
still
striking.
making headlines now. I guess because the Waspie women are very vocal and have had a very, a very effective campaign.
No, that's definitely part of it. But I think the other thing that's really hit them is the hypocrisy. I think the Conservatives, we assumed they were going to do this. The Conservatives weren't running around posing with placards with Waspie women. The Conservatives, as we saw Keir Starmer just a few years ago, weren't on BBC Radio Merseyside saying that we have to right this historic wrong. It might not have been in the manifesto, but they made very clear whose position they were taking.
They all had their picture taken
Well,
with
they
Waspie
did,
women, didn't they?
Rachel Reeves, Sir Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, Ed Miliband, Yvette Cooper, practically all of them, signed the Waspie pledge or they post their little pictures and then did a complete screeching U-turn, including Liz Kendall, the pension secretary, who signed up to the charter.
So sorry, I was going to say, how is this going to affect the local elections?
Well, whether or not they're going to actually go ahead in full has also been thrown into question because of this reorganisation.
Well, how can they do that? How can they stop the local elections or delay them for a long time?
Well, the mooted plan to basically kind of reorganise the way in which local democracy functions could potentially put that to the buffers. I do wonder whether they would get away with it politically in the current climate because it would look like trying to stave off a potentially embarrassing result. But that, I think, is going to be a key test for them. It's also going to be a key test for the Conservative Party and whether or not they've been able to really regain any ground from that reform have taken from them. But it will be a key test, I think, whenever they do come, for how much people are fed up already with this Labour government.
Can we quickly touch upon that reform Elon Musk thing? It's on the front page of The Observer today. They want to change the rules now because they're fearful that some foreign money, a billionaire's money might go to their opponents. They weren't that bothered when Lord Ali, the billionaire, was given to the Labour Party. They weren't that bothered when 4 million quid went from a Cayman Island hedge fund into the Labour Party's coffers when the general election was announced. They're all at it. But are they changing the laws now where their political opponents might be the net beneficiaries and they're getting the wobble?
No, absolutely. This discussion about there's too much money in politics is only ever made by people who feel there's too much money in the other side of politics. There's too much money in that political party. The amount of money that was originally being talked about here would $100 million, I think 78 million pounds, would have been by a country mile the biggest single donation in British political history. So that is different, but I think it will strike people as just trying to, again, change the rules because of the fact that the facts of the ground have changed. And I think most people will see that for as cynical as it really is.
Superb. Tom Slater, excellent as ever, editor of Spite Online. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, you know, don't you, at GB News, we really do value what you think. Our poll of the day, then, today is, do you agree with the government's new grocery tax in order to hit those net zero targets? We'll be bringing you the live results right throughout the day. The final result will be announced later on in Nana Akwe's show. And you know to go, don't you, to GB News, bbc.com/poll to find out more.
I think Ed Miliband's going to be entering about 10,000 times at home, just to try and make sure that's like not 99% against. OK, moving swiftly onwards to our top story today. Following the devastating attack at a German market, Christmas market in the German city of Magdeburg, the Saudi Arabian government are claiming they repeatedly warned Germany's authorities about the man suspected of driving a car into the crowds on Friday night.
Yeah, German media are reporting the man's identity as Taleb al-Abdul Mohsen, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor, and that Germany's interior minister says he holds Islamophobic views.
And the suspect has now been arrested and remains under investigation on suspicion of murder, attempted murder and bodily harm.
And then you've got the 200 injured, 5 dead, including a 9-year-old girl. Germany faces a Christmas mourning its loss.
And Christmas market security is also now being reviewed in Britain. In London, the Metropolitan Police are warning the public to stay vigilant in the wake of Friday's attack.
Well, joining us now is Dr. Rakib Ehsan, who's a social policy analyst. A very good morning to you. A lot of our viewers are getting very upset that they feel we're not being given all the information and that maybe our reaction to the terrible things that happened in the Christmas market, maybe our reactions are being managed in some way. What's your view on it? Because it just seems that what we're being told doesn't add up to a credible story.
Well, I think that what I've seen in reaction to that horrific atrocity in Germany, I found it to be some of the reactions to be incredibly questionable. Some people have argued that the background and the supposed ideology of the suspect is very different, or rather doesn't match up to his actions. And I question that. And the reason I do is because their suspect is known to be an anti-Islam atheist activist. And there's many people who seem to be suggesting that this was just a big plan which was hatched up in order to relocate to Germany. In fact, is a hardened Islamist extremist. And I'll tell you why that theory doesn't add up. Because this Saudi refugee, the suspect, relocated to Germany back in 2006. He was granted refugee status in 2016. And are we seriously suggesting that he kept up this act all this time in order to carry out an Islamist terrorist attack as recently as this month? So I think that some of the theories that I've seen being peddled are incredibly suspect in my view.
And we have live pictures on our screen there from Magdeburg. That's floral tributes being laid down by locals, of course, as the entire country comes together in its mourning for those who've been lost and injured. But it's also worth pointing out, Rakib, that here is an individual that was wanted for deportation in Saudi Arabia. There are people coming forward claiming that they've been targeted by him. They are ex-Muslims. And the modus operandi, why would a person calling themselves an atheist, why would a person call themselves an anti-Islamist adopt the modus operandi that's precisely associated with the Islamic terror attacks? There are just a lot of people asking a lot of questions. Do you think we know the full picture yet?
Well, I think that from what has emerged, this suspect is an anti-Islam activist. In my view, he comes across as a militant atheist. And I think that if you look at his social media content, which is there for public consumption, he actually developed a hatred of Germany because he believed that Germany was responsible for the Islamification of Europe. Now, if you are a militant atheist which looks to seek refuge and has been provided sanctuary in Europe, because you are an atheist and you originate from Saudi Arabia, but then you feel that the government, the people and the systems are ultimately responsible for the Islamification of Germany and the European continent at large. In my view, it is plausible that the suspect developed a hatred of Germany. So I think that what we have to look at here is when a refugee moves from the Middle East to Europe, if they develop fresh feelings of betrayal, rejection and persecution. Why do they feel that way? And who or what do they hold responsible for having those feelings? Those are the questions that we should be asking.
But Rakib, a lot of people will be saying, irrespective of all of this, we have an individual here who was granted asylum into Germany, along with many others. We are now seeing a huge questioning, an awakening perhaps in Germany. Has this all been an experiment with consequences which are now repeatedly tragic? We have elections coming up in February, and Elon Musk is saying now that the traditional political parties in Germany have utterly failed the people. The AfD is the only hope for Germany. We have Elon Musk now lending his eye towards Germany in a similar manner, perhaps, towards lending his eye towards reform in the UK. What do you think Elon Musk is playing at here? Do you think he's interfering with foreign democracy, or do you think actually he's being more of potentially of an interventionist, somebody who is saying Europe is heading down a dark and dangerous path and we need to change quickly?
Well, I think the point that we can make in relation to this horrific atrocity is that there's many people in Western Europe who I believe don't quite understand the scale to which their own societies have imported competing violent ideologies from the Middle East. And what that's done has led to the development of multifaceted security threats. And it's also contributed to an increasingly complicated terror threat picture. So I think that we have a very serious problem here. And I think that if we look at what has emerged so far from this case, it's actually a very worrying development, actually, if you have an anti-Islam militant atheist who has potentially carried out a terrorist attack. Of course, we have to let the investigations progress. But if that is indeed what has happened, that's a very worrying development when it comes to terrorism in mainland Europe.
And surely the other very worrying aspect is that we are meanwhile accepting almost as normal the fact that when we go out nowadays, we must be protected by concrete bollards and barriers, and we're being told to be vigilant by the police. In other words, we are sort of accepting that we have to live in fear of attacks like this.
It's absolutely terrible, and that's the truth of it. I think the idea that you have to have such heightened security at Christmas markets because of the threat of terrorism in modern Europe, I think it's a crying shame. I'm not personally Christian. I have a Muslim background, but I think that it's such a joyous time where you have families coming together, and it's such a beautiful thing. But then to have these security threats in the face of that, I actually think it's actually quite tragic.
Totally agree, Dr. Rakib Hassan. And just to repeat there, we have live pictures from Magdeburg on your screens there of a huge amount of floral tributes being laid to those who've been lost. 5 dead so far, including a 9-year-old child, 205 injured, the latest tally. And I just wonder how many more flowers can be laid, how many more candles can be lit, how many more thoughts and prayers can be said before we actually go a bit further and start to properly address this situation, because I think there's going to be a political backlash.
How many more times, I think, over the next few days, just count, are politicians and heads of police forces going to say lessons must be learned?
Yeah, when?
What does that really ever mean?
Yeah, lots to think about there. Thank you very much, Rakib Hassan. Superb stuff. And let's have a look now at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
The President-elect Donald Trump has chosen a British TV executive as his special envoy to the UK. Mark Burnett created The Apprentice, and that, of course, was the programme that rocketed Mr. Trump to international fame. In a statement, the President-elect said it was a great honour to hire his former colleague.
You're hired. And the RSPCA is facing backlash after TV presenter Chris Packham and also the former Green Party MP Caroline Lucas. They've quit the charity over cruelty claims. And that's after activist group Animal Rising released footage allegedly showing animal cruelty from an abattoir on the charity's approved list. And in response, the RSPCA has said it takes allegations of poor animal welfare incredibly seriously.
It's been revealed that the Princess of Wales planned her Christmas carol service with help from the grieving Lady Gabriella Windsor, whose husband was found dead earlier this year. Catherine invited Lady Gabriella during the summer to join her team organising their annual get-together, or it's called Together, isn't it? Together at Christmas event at Westminster Abbey, which featured a host of stars. And Christmas carols sung the proper way.
It's beautiful.
I can't get over this report that says, and you backed it up, that Christmas is being sort of written out of Christmas carols and out of nativity plays at school and things like that.
Yeah,
terrible.
In both my kids' schools now, there's no mention of the C word. It's winter, it's holidays, Christmas, I believe, is being slowly airbrushed out. I know at my daughter's school, even references to Christmas were kind of sighed upon in case it wasn't deemed inclusive enough.
But I don't understand that, because in schools I know for a fact they celebrate Diwali and other...
Which is great.
Yes, exactly, other religious events. The whole point being that you learn more about each other's cultures and everything. So why would you take Christ out of Christmas?
Because it's deemed as offensive to those who are non-Christians.
I don't think it does offend non-Christians. It offends people who think they speak for Christians.
And why can't the headmasters, why can't the local authorities, why can't the councils, why can't the politicians say, it's Christmas, deal with it.
Yeah,
this is the Christian festival, it's our time to celebrate, you have your time to celebrate, we're truly inclusive, let us all practice in peace.
And shouldn't we get more leadership from the head of the church?
Totally. Anyway, let's move on to the most important thing. It's blustery out there. Hang on to your hats. Here's your weather with Craig Snell.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Metaverse. Well, as we look ahead towards Christmas, after a very windy and cold feeling day today, actually the weather does turn milder as we approach Christmas Day itself, but with plenty of cloud too. Back to the here and now for Sunday. It's going to be a very windy day, as I mentioned, across many parts, but especially so for many northern and western areas. Warnings are in force from the Met Office right throughout the day, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, it's really going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers across many parts. Showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground in the north, and that strength of the wind really is going to make things feel bitterly cold. On the thermometer, we could see highs reaching around 7 to 9, but certainly feeling sub-zero, especially for parts of Scotland. So as we end the day, still some further showers moving in across many parts of Scotland. The sleet and snow across the high ground could just give a little bit of ice in places. Maybe fewer showers for Northern Ireland and the rest of England and Wales, with the clearest of the skies really over towards the far southeastern corner. Moving towards the early hours of Monday morning, the winds will gradually ease across many parts. That allows more in the way of clear skies to develop. So we probably will see a widespread frost developing as we start Monday morning. Could just still see a few showers across Scotland, again just maintaining a risk of some ice here. But most towns and cities falling down to low single figures, in the countryside certainly below freezing. So Monday morning itself, a bright but frosty start for a lot of us. Plenty of crisp winter sunshine to be had, but out towards the west, thicker cloud, outbreaks of rain moving in, and that will herald something a little bit milder moving in. So temperatures gradually rising in the west as we go through Monday, but out towards the east, hanging on to the colder conditions for one more day. But here we will maintain with the sunshine right throughout the afternoon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Christmas is coming, did you know? And there's still plenty of time to grab a chance to win our festive treat for you. Well, it could be £50,000 in tax-free cash. It's the biggest we've ever done. This is how you can maybe win it.
There's just 3 sleeps till Christmas, and all through the land, GB News has the chance to win a nifty 50 grand. That's cash for the new year. You could go on a spree. And the best thing about it, it's totally tax-free. From Santa with love, you could be our winner. Just enter right now, or right after Christmas dinner. It's a cracker of a prize, guaranteed to enthrall. From all of us at GB News, Merry Christmas to you all.
For another chance to win, text cash to 6 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, still to come next, what do you make of fox trail hunting? That's fox hunting without a fox, where they follow a scent. Is it a part of countryside culture, or is it time to ban it? We're debating that next. This is GB News Breakfast with Martin and with Anne.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
The birth rate in Britain has sunk to 1.49, well below replacement rate. Yet policies pursued by both major parties are still to spend huge sums to encourage parents back to their work when their children are still at preschool age. Should we not be helping parents to spend longer at home, asks his new book, whilst recognising that in an age of sex equality, the question is fraught. David Goodhart joins me now.
We undervalue the domestic realm, and that has led to lots of the most negative trends in British society. About half of children in the UK are not living with both of their biological parents by the age of 14. We have, of families with dependent children, about 24-25% are single-parent households. You know, mainly mothers, and they're doing, valiant work. But of course, it means you don't have the investment in children that a two-parent family can give. I mean, the reason why it's a care dilemma is that a lot of these negative trends are also kind of intimately related to positive things, like that movement of women into work, the fact that women are no longer so defined by marriage and motherhood, the fact that women and men are freer to leave unhappy relationships. And the challenge for modern liberal societies is, how we hold on to those freedoms but get a better balance, which means, I think, investing more in the domestic realm. We spend a total now of £9 billion on childcare subsidies. Why not give that subsidy direct to young parents so they could then choose whether to subsidise themselves, as it were, to be able to afford to stay at home, or to give it to a nursery, or to give it to granny, or to keep it in the home.
GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Anne and Martin, or Martin and Anne, depending on where we sit, apparently.
Now then, for many, a Boxing Day hunt is an annual festivity. But in Tiverton, Devon, it's become something of a local controversy.
Plans to scrap the town's historic trail hunt have been foiled after animal rights protesters lost a vote to ban the event.
And it's caused confrontations between supporters of the Tiverton foxhounds and anti-hunt activists who claim the event is a cover for real fox hunting despite it being banned under the Hunting Act.
Well, we're joined by Senior Media and Communications Manager at PETA, Jennifer White, who's for ending fox hunting like this, and chairman of Hunting Kind, Ed Swales, who is against a ban. Ed, can I come to you first and ask, what is trail hunting? Just for the sake of everybody watching right now and listening who may not know the difference between hunting a real live fox and how you do trail hunting.
Good morning. Thank you. Yeah, trail hunting is basically a replication of what fox hunting was before it was banned by Tony Blair in 2004. So it is the following of a trail which is with a scent. So it could be a rag or a sponge or whatever it might be, trailed across the countryside, replicating the way that a fox or a hare or whatever it might be would have run, so that people can then follow that, or sorry, the hounds can follow that, the dogs can follow that, and people then take pleasure in a day out in the countryside, riding amongst each other and across farmland to effectively replicate
Where do you get
that.
the scent from? Do you get it from a dead fox or a dead hare, or is it an entirely artificial substance?
Well, there are both natural-based scents, which are derived from animals, and there are artificial-based scents like aniseed, something very, very strong and obvious that definitely isn't an animal scent, can also be used. And it depends which type of scent the hounds have been accustomed to.
OK, Jennifer White, let's bring you into this point. Of course, Ed Swales and people in favour of this would say it's a traditional part of the rural landscape. Of course, people like yourself would no doubt argue this is used as a cover for real hunting, and that's why you want to get rid of it.
Absolutely. I mean, it was shameful that the council chose not to listen to the will of the people and ban this cruel trail hunt, because we know that trail hunting is a smokescreen for illegal fox hunting activity. And that's why we've seen over 400 convictions for hunting since 2010. And the hounds are trained to recognize the scent of a fox. So, of course, when you put these hounds into, a fox's natural habitat, of course, it is so predictable that they are going to get distracted. They are going to deviate from the fake trail that has been laid, and they are going to go after the real animals. And that is why we urgently need the British government to strengthen the Hunting Act and close this loophole for good.
Ed?
Well, I think the statistics are always a good place to look. There have been over 250,000 trail hunting days of the amount of packs that there are. There's about 170 packs of hounds and dogs in the UK, and the convictions, or successful convictions, of those have been in the region of 25 since 2004. So it's actually a 0.01 conviction rate on that law is actually the fact.
So Jennifer White, would you argue that, as many people might, that this is people who have metropolitan views, people who live in towns, dictating to people in the countryside what they should and shouldn't do? This has been a part of the fabric of the countryside for centuries, and why should it stop now?
I mean, tradition is never an excuse for cruelty, and there is a very, very good reason why fox hunting has been banned in the UK for so long. And as I mentioned, these hounds, they get distracted and they go after the real animals. And when that happens, terrified foxes are fleeing for their lives. They have been known to rupture their internal organs whilst trying to escape the hounds. But ultimately, they end up cornered and they are torn limb from limb, disemboweled. It is honestly hard to think of anything more cruel than what foxes endure during a hunt. And there is just no place for it in modern Britain.
But nature is cruel, isn't it? That's just one animal attacking another. Don't they do that in the wild anyway?
Well, there's nothing natural about setting a pack of hounds on a terrified, innocent fox. Frankly, there is no place for fox hunting or any type of hunting in modern Britain. And that is what the public wants as well.
Well, the council in Tiverton didn't agree with that position. They've stood by their guns, and this hunt will go ahead as usual. Ed Swales, are you happy with that decision? It's a victory, and can you give people watching this your assurance that this isn't a cover for actual fox hunting? This is a bona fide, non-cruel method of traditional hunting.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to say to the Mayor of Tiverton, well done, because you represent actually not the minuscule proportion of people who have been very successful in making a lot of noise against traditional British activities, of which fox hunting is probably an icon, probably the totem. If you're looking at Britain from abroad, they'd probably think of fox hunting as an emblem. And we're extremely proud of that heritage. The oldest cave painting, I think, of a hunting scene is 50,000 years ago, and we're still doing it, and we will do it. And you will never get rid of the hunting gene in either us who hunt or the animals which are used to hunt and as part of that trophic campaign.
Ed, I think you had a lot of the audience on your side there until you started talking about the hunting gene and actual killing foxes. Fox hunting is illegal. It's been outlawed.
Oh, no, I absolutely, I totally hear you, and I know exactly what the law is. Whether I would agree that the law was ill-founded and might need review based on scientific evidence, which really didn't feature in what was largely a prejudiced anti-people law. And that's why it hasn't gone down particularly well, certainly with people like me who would like to see British way of life and rural way of life continue as we know best.
Well, will the hunt then be out in Tiverton this Boxing Day?
Well, thousands, yeah, they will, and thousands of market squares up and down the country, if we're still allowed to say Christmas, I'm not quite sure if that's a word anymore, will be celebrating on Thursday, drinking pints of beer, enjoying each other's company, enjoying an enormous show of British cultural heritage and pride.
OK, Ed Swales, I have to interject and give a final quick word for balance to Jennifer White. Jennifer, you've been sitting there looking disgusted by this. Will you be turning up to protest against this particular hunt?
I mean, look, fox hunting is animal cruelty, plain and simple. And if people were going out into the countryside to chase cats or any other animal, you would not call it sport or tradition. You would call it animal abuse. And that is exactly what it is when it happens to foxes. These animals have the exact same capacity to feel pain and fear as the animals that we love and keep in our homes. And they urgently need more protection. And that's why the government has to act and strengthen the Hunting Act to ensure that the loophole of trail hunting can be closed.
OK, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Jennifer White and Ed Swales there on the trail hunting ban.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess because we do, as Ed said, we sort of equate it to Christmas, Boxing Day, the stirrup cup, everybody looking splendid, but it is a bit antiquated as well.
It is. So still to come next, we'll have all the latest on last night's big fight with Aidan McGee. That's your sports with me here on GB News with Martin and Anne on breakfast.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
The row over Prince Harry's US visa will be brought back into focus.
Earlier this year, Nigel Farage asked Donald Trump about this very issue. Let's take a listen.
No one knows the truth. What did he put on his American visa form?
If they know something about the drugs and if he lied, they'll have to take appropriate action.
Appropriate action? What could that mean?
Well, the fractured relationship between the president-elect and the royal couple, or ex-royal couple, I should say, began in 2020 when the Sussexes urged American voters to stay clear of Trump, urging them to reject hate speech, misinformation and online negativity.
OK, well, to break down this story for us, we're joined by royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams. Richard, so what are the chances of Trump saying, you know what, Harry, time to get out of here?
I very strongly suspect that the new administration has other priorities, and also it wouldn't want the enormous amount of fuss. Can you just imagine it in hypothetical situations if it happened? I mean, we've seen Nigel Farage there get an answer from Donald Trump, which implied that this might be looked into, and it might.
The Americans say that if you have taken illegal drugs, you're not allowed immigration status. Prince Harry, in his book, said he'd taken illegal drugs, and there he is with American immigration status. I mean, how do the two things make sense? Either he lied in the book, or he lied to the US government.
I can't see that the future administration would want to be involved with problems with the British royal family, which obviously would occur if this happened.
Yeah, that's true. Richard Fitzwilliams, thank you very much, as ever.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 8:40, time to bash our way through the sports. I'm joined now by Aidan McGee. So the big fight last night, Tyson Fury lost. Is it the end of the road for him?
No, not quite. I think you will probably see an end to him fighting for top-level belts, because sooner or later someone's going to have to beat Usyk if that's happened. I don't see that occurring anytime soon. But that fight that's on the table with Anthony Joshua is still there. It's still there. And why wouldn't you do it? Because it's a money spinner. Apart from anything else, we all want to see it. We should have seen it 5 years ago, let's be perfectly honest with you. We didn't think we'd see it, and then now I think it's probably more likely than anything else. I mean, if you look at it, Tyson Fury has fought pretty much most contenders who might give him a fight, apart from Joshua. Usyk as well, where does he go? I mean, he's beaten Dubois. He could have a rematch against him, but what's he got to prove? He's beaten AJ twice, he's beaten Tyson Fury twice. He's hinted he could go back down to cruiserweight, because this is the astonishing thing, Anne, as I mentioned last hour. He's not even a heavyweight. And he's gone up there and beaten all these guys who are much bigger than he is. And he's proved that boxing is about dexterity, skill, heart, and a lot more besides.
Yeah, it was a superb fight. Next, all eyes on the darts. And I believe you're going down, my old son.
I am indeed, yeah. Mike on the mic, my friend, my old colleague from Sky, he's invited me down kindly for hospitality tonight, Mike Bridge, and he's really excited. His parents are avid watchers of GB News as well.
We'll have a couple of sherbets of that, do you think?
Oh, without doubt, yeah, I would think so. It's an impromptu one. I'm trying to find a hotel. It's so difficult around Ali Pali, isn't it? To try and find somewhere. So it might just be an Uber in and an Uber out, but anything that allows me to have a couple of bevies, I'll be fine with that. But what an event. I mean, Luke Littler has transformed darts. I mean, he was already on an upward curve, and no question about that.
Oh, yeah.
But he's just pushed it to a different level. Tickets 83% up in terms of demand this year. That's why I'm so privileged to go, because the tickets are like gold dust. And thankfully I don't have to work either.
But it's because he's young and talented, and so that makes it exciting. We haven't had anyone exciting in that field
Not
for a while,
really, no. I mean, it tends to be the same names. I mean, Ray Van Barneveld, a former champion, went out last night. Gary Anderson in action tonight as well. Luke Littler averaged 140 yesterday. What a level of consistency. And I wonder who's in tears at the end with the with the announce. Yeah, it was in the paper this morning as well, with his winnings over the course of the year, which I think have tipped over £1 million. He was able to.
I'm sure he can't believe it. What's happened?
No, I know. Well, it's down to the JDC, the Junior Darts Corporation. They decided, the darts bosses decided about 10 years ago that we're not getting players into the sport young enough. Other sports are nicking them, because, like snooker, for example, because we're not. They're coming through the pub system. Unless they go into a pub underage, they're not going to pick up the game until they're probably at least 18. So you need to get them a bit younger, and it's beginning to bear fruit, because Luke Littler isn't the only youngster around. There are signs that others.
But that happens in all sports, doesn't it? If they actually invest in young people, create football academies or whatever, what have you, it yields results.
You're going to see the best generation of darts players in the next 10 years. You're going to see ones who've never set foot inside a pub. And if you'd said that 5 years ago, you'd have said that was very unlikely.
Yeah.
But darts, of course, one of the majestic things about it, it's one of the last truly politically incorrect sports. It's a working-class warrior sport. There's been a huge pushback. In fact, the hockey girls are back.
They are. Well, I think they're back last year. But I mean, I remember when
they were banned, but they've been reintroduced because the fans wanted them.
That's right.
The fans fought back against the feminists.
I know. I mean, it's interesting, because when it was at the Circus Tavern in Purfleet, it was all about the pub atmosphere, and that was very much part of it. I didn't think they'd be able to recreate that at the Ali Pali, because it was 6,000. Now they're going to go to a bigger venue. I'm absolutely certain of that. I think one more year at Ali Pali and you'll see them go to a stadium possibly. Who knows? Outdoor darts under the floodlights. Who'd have thought it?
Beautiful, beautiful.
OK, we've got to move on. Time is always against us, and it's because Christmas is sort of just round the corner as well. If you're in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Hello there, welcome to your latest winter sun forecast. If you're travelling over the Christmas period, it's certainly going to remain unsettled for central parts of the Mediterranean. There's an area low pressure brings some strong winds, some heavy rain and also some snow to the higher levels. Something a little bit quieter for parts of Iberia, plenty of sunshine to be had here, but then down towards the Canaries, still the risk of some showers, although it will improve here as we approach Christmas Day itself. Temperatures in Madeira reaching around 20 degrees on Christmas Day.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
3 incredible young people from Essex are planning to become the youngest people ever to row, not sail, row, across the Atlantic Ocean.
It's about for 3,000 miles.
It is.
Give or take.
Almost exactly that, Sam.
The 3 flying fish, so-called, consists of Anna, Dunk, Harry, Alan and Rowan Daly, who are preparing to row that 3,000 miles across the Atlantic. It would be the second largest ocean in the world. And the trio are aiming to do that challenge in support of the Teenage Cancer Trust.
Well, I'm very pleased to say that Anna and Harry from the Flying Fish join us now. Very good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
I think the two of you are bonkers, but brilliant. Absolutely incredible what you're doing to raise money for Teenage Cancer Trust. Why did you want to do this?
So our third person, Rowan, his friend actually died. So when he was in secondary school, I believe, one of his peers passed away, and Teenage Cancer Trust supported them and their family a lot. So it was definitely the right charity. Yeah, it was.
Absolutely awful. So you wanted to do something to raise money for teenage cancer. Why rowing?
So my dad did it in 2021.
The trip, the Atlantic trip?
Yeah, he rowed it as a pair. Where we live in Essex, they actually build the boats there. So we used to cycle round there past the boatyard, and he got interested and actually did it. He was the first year after COVID. And one night, we all met in the Air Cadets, so one night after Air Cadets, Rowan actually dropped me off home and the boat was outside. We were obviously waiting to get it sold. And I think he was asking some questions and we stood there at my porch and Rowan said, I reckon we could do that. And I was like, yeah, I reckon we could. And then we brought Harry on board, and that's kind of how it all came together.
If people are watching and they want to support you, do you have a
Yeah, we've
GoFundMe
got
page
social media platforms at
Right.
The Free Flying Fish. That's Facebook, Instagram and TikTok, and our GoFundMe links in all of the bios on there.
Fantastic.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 8:48. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Martin and Anne.
And joining us to go through the newspapers now, political commentator Lynn May and social campaigner Winston Davis. Thank you very much for being with us the third time this morning. What are we going to start with? Winston, you've been looking at prisoners, and they're turning over a moo leaf.
A moo leaf, yeah. So prisoners in HMP Prescode in Monmouthshire, Wales, they've been learning to milk cows. I mean, look, when I was in prison, I learned to become a heating engineer, and it served me for the last 17 years since, and built a business and life, family, whatever else for me. I'm not sure how much they're going to be able to take milk and cows out into the real world. However, they say that just by being in the outdoors, using the equipment and being part of a team, it's a skill set in itself.
Yes, absolutely.
But I would say that's fine, but they need to be having training that specifically will allow them to use whatever skill they learn from and to make money from.
Yeah, to learn a trade, in other words.
Well, a trade, a skill, IT, something that they can actually apply to the real world, not just,
It's a brilliant idea. I think we're losing those sort of traditional
careers of trades that you know, there's a shortage of builders and carpenters and trades across the board. We're seeing, in terms of agriculture and farming, we've gone from 44% of people in that sector to 26%. And, you know, we're seeing all of the farmers in the headlines. I don't want this to be a dying industry, especially after Brexit. If we really had planning in terms of our agriculture and making things back in Britain, many of those people that leave prison can actually see agriculture and farming as a way of life and make money from it.
Yeah, maybe, hopefully there'll be any farms to go to after the inheritance tax rate. And Winston, let's hope if they do a good job, they don't get a pat on the head.
A pat on the head? What's that?
Then you get it, milking a cow.
Don't. You,
I was wondering.
Sorry, it's a terrible joke. It's the kind of joke you might get in a Christmas cracker.
That's right.
It's that
true.
time of year.
Nice one,
Terrible. I should apologise for that. Can we move on? Something which actually brings me out in hives. I cannot stand romantic movies. I just can't stand them. I'd rather watch zombies and car chasers. That's
Zombies
just me.
are boring. I mean, there's never a proper end to a zombie movie,
If you're bored of zombies, you're bored of life.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, you're bored of death or half-life or whatever it is. OK, Lynn, tell us about this, because apparently settling down this Christmas and cuddling up to your loved one and watching a romantic movie is very good for our health.
Well, research says that it could increase the bond between couples if they sit down and watch a rom-com or a romantic movie. Maybe it could spice things up if they're seeing a bit of canoodling on the TV, I don't know. But then it could have the opposite effect, where some women may see what's happening in the film and say, well, why don't you kiss me more? Why don't you hold my hand? And then there might be a bit of bickering, so who knows?
Well, that's always the problem. It's like, well, look how handsome he is. look how minted he is.
You sound like you're going through trauma.
Look how romantic he is. Why can't you be more like that? Going, blooming hell, I just want all the Baileys.
Yeah, like in my house, in my household, every Christmas for years now, it's been Home Alone 1, Home Alone 2, on repeat. You know, we don't get much time without the kids, so it's just Home Alone, and that's actually a real nice actual thing for the family. Yeah, for the family, yeah.
The Home Alone movies are brilliant, aren't they?
I've seen those movies
so many times.
About 14 times each. My missus just is addicted to Christmas movies, addicted to Christmas music. I think I'm slightly PTSD about it.
What about the romantic ones? Have you ever watched a good romantic one?
Do you remember Dr.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I love Dr.
I've seen Love Actually once, and I can't bear it.
Oh, try it again. It might grow on you. What about The Holiday? The Kate Winslet, Cameron Diaz.
Nah, good to be honest with you, I'm actually with you, Martin. The thought of it, actually.
Is it all too much?
I'd rather just watch a podcast or something and with headphones on.
God,
but that's an ordinary day.
Yeah, but
let's have a break from podcast.
On Christmas Day, you have to watch something very different. Except The Great Escape is a famous Christmas movie. And, of course, it isn't about Christmas at all. No. But it's always known as a Christmas movie, rather like the
Wizard of Oz?
No. Well, yeah. I sat down and watched that the other night. It's very dated.
It is, yes. The greatest unsung Christmas movie, Die Hard.
Die Hard's really good. We can agree on that.
It's got explosions.
Who doesn't like Die Hard?
Yeah, that's not really a love movie. That's all right. I can watch that. To be fair, I'll be asleep after half an hour anyway. So.
Ryan's Express. That's another very good Christmas movie.
I think it sounds
Frank Sinatra. That's going back a bit, but it's in colour.
I like It's a Wonderful Life. You know, the real old, real old classic. Sounds like Winston, you and I should watch Christmas movies together.
Me too. I'm not really partial to rom-com. I like action, thrillers, horrors.
Yes, I like those as well. But I think it's good for the soul to sit down at least. Take some time.
Are you a weeper?
On the sofa.
Do you have a cry at those?
I do now. I think that's come with age, I think. I didn't used to. Now I'll weep at adverts.
Oh, God.
If an advert's good enough and gets you going, yes. And the one thing I know will get me going is the Christmas Carol concert that, that Princess Catherine has done.
I was crying my eyes out.
Honestly, those carols just get me crying. Why is it? It just gets all the emotions going, doesn't it?
Okay, Winston and Lynn, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas. God bless you.
Say that now, because it's only free sleep.
Come on.
Christmas. Here's the weather with Craig Snell.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Metaverse. Well, as we look ahead towards Christmas, after a very windy and cold feeling day today, actually the weather does turn milder as we approach Christmas Day itself, but with plenty of cloud too. Back to the here and now for Sunday. It's going to be a very windy day, as I mentioned, across many parts, but especially so for many northern and western areas. Warnings are in force from the Met Office right throughout the day, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, it's really going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers across many parts. Showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground in the north, and that strength of the wind really is going to make things feel bitterly cold. On the thermometer, we could see highs reaching around 7 to 9, but certainly feeling sub-zero, especially for parts of Scotland. So as we end the day, still some further showers moving in across many parts of Scotland. The sleet and snow across the high ground could just give a little bit of ice in places. Maybe fewer showers for Northern Ireland and the rest of England and Wales, with the clearest of the skies really over towards the far southeastern corner. Moving towards the early hours of Monday morning, the winds will gradually ease across many parts. That allows more in the way of clear skies to develop. So we probably will see a widespread frost developing as we start Monday morning. Could just still see a few showers across Scotland, again just maintaining a risk of some ice here. But most towns and cities falling down to low single figures, in the countryside certainly below freezing. So Monday morning itself, a bright but frosty start for a lot of us. Plenty of crisp winter sunshine to be had, but out towards the west, thicker cloud, outbreaks of rain moving in, and that will herald something a little bit milder moving in. So temperatures gradually rising in the west as we go through Monday, but out towards the east, hanging on to the colder conditions for one more day. But here we will maintain with the sunshine right throughout the afternoon.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Osama bin Laden issued a fatwa entitled World Front for Combat Against Jews and Crusaders, and President George W. Bush talked of a crusade on terrorism. In 2010, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula sent a parcel bomb to New York. It was addressed to Reginald of Chatillon. The addressee had died at the hands of Saladin in 1187. Those facts suggest that the long history of struggle between Christendom and Islamic caliphates remains relevant, at least to some militant Islamists. That being the case, perhaps we should all understand the past. General Sir Simon Mayle, a former Deputy Chief of the Defence Staff Operations, can be our teacher, particularly if we want to know in gory detail about battles to control Jerusalem, Constantinople, Vienna and the Eastern Mediterranean. His new book is called
took Spain all the way into Tours, Charles Martel. 100 years after the death of the Prophet, it expanded in an extraordinary state.
GB News, the People's Channel.
A very good morning to you. The whole of Germany stands in dark hours with the people of Magdeburg.
Yeah, we now know that 4 adults and a 9-year-old child were killed, with more than 200 other people injured.
And the 50-year-old man accused of their murder has now been remanded in custody.
The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has been called a Christmas Grinch, as it's revealed that her tax changes in the budget means that 45 pence in every pound donated to charity will now effectively go to the taxman.
And the cost of the Green Dream, a new grocery tax designed to achieve the government's net zero targets, will push up household shopping bills for all Brits by an astonishing £1.4 billion a year.
And we know that this is what you really want to talk about, pork pies. In Britain's rural capital of food, bakers are working tirelessly right now to ensure that every dinner table has a traditional pork pie for Christmas Day. And our reporter, Will Hollis, will tell us all about it. Wonderful tradition.
Beautiful.
Good morning. It's a cold and blustery day for most of us today, but temperatures are on the rise as we approach Christmas Day. Find out all the weather details with me coming up a little later on.
Hang on to your hats, it's just gone 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm Martin Daubney.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast. Pork pies. Pork pies have really got you going. It's incredible sometimes. You don't know quite what's going to get people all excited. And you might think it's Christmas, but it's not. It's pork pies this morning. So it'll be in a few minutes' time, probably 10 or so minutes. No, maybe a bit longer. We will go back to Melton Mowbray and find out how they make pork pies and how they make them so incredibly special. And I do warn you that as soon as you've seen it, you will want to eat one, even if you're a vegetarian like me. Really got me going.
You're converted by the pork pie package.
And the other thing that got us going was parsley sauce.
Yeah.
There are some things. Tom Harwood is here with us because you're doing Camilla's show today. What is a sort of Christmas comfort food that you love?
Stuffing.
Oh, yeah.
Always stuffing.
Yeah.
And there will always be some sort of pot of it in the middle of the table, and I will invariably go back, not just for seconds, not for thirds, but probably fourths and fifths as well. It is just absolute comfort food.
Smothered in gravy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Do you take it in balls or in sheets or inside the bird?
You need to dollop it. So there's always some sort of...
Oh, you like it sludgy.
Le Creuset sort of thing, and you scoop it out and plop it down on the plate.
Yeah,
and what about Yorkshire puds? Do you do Yorkshire puds as a big bake, or do you do individuals? And do you like them to be absolutely, conform to a certain shape, or do you like them where they go all crusty and wild?
I like a big sort of monster that just does whatever it wants.
Yeah,
and
me
chop
too.
into it,
Yeah.
chuck it around.
See, I might be a heathen here, but I don't think that I don't have Yorkshire puddings with Christmas.
See, I do.
With Christmas lunch. No, I don't.
I do.
I have roast potatoes, yes. Yorkshire puds, no.
Heresy.
You've got to have a Yorkshire pud.
I don't know. I would on a normal Sunday lunch, but not on a Christmas lunch.
No, I know. I know that's common. If you look at pictures of, big chefs' Christmas lunch, they don't include the Yorkshire pud, which I think's bad because you should. But I even like mint sauce, and I don't have lamb because I'm a vegetarian. I have a nut roast or something for me. But I love.
You sound like the most carnivorous vegetarian that has ever walked the earth.
Yeah. Well, I was a carnivore at one point, and so you don't forget.
Well, put it this way: this morning during Will Hollis's pork pie package, Anne Diamond said, "Can we send out some pork pie?"
Yeah.
So I don't think actually that's strict vegetarian.
We've got an M&S really near us here.
It's the headquarters of the M&S of M&S in the country.
But it's not open on a Sunday until about 11.
Did you see that? We just heard now, we might have some pork pie in the building.
Oh.
That's a game changer. Look, there is some serious politics going on to sink our teeth into. Before we just keep talking about pork pies for another 15 minutes, because, of course, Camilla Tomlin's show at 9:30 today, and hosting today is Tom Harwood. Tom, you got some Christmas crackers for us.
That's right. Perhaps surprisingly, the politics doesn't stop at Christmas. Today we're going to be talking to the leader of the House of Commons, Lucy Powell. She's boasting that 30 bills are before Parliament since the new government got into power, and she'll be talking through exactly what the government is doing, because let's be honest, it hasn't been a great start. We've been looking at the polling. I mean, has any government after an election collapsed this quickly in terms of public satisfaction? So we're not just going to be talking to Lucy Powell, but also the pollster Martin Baxter, who's going to tell us exactly what's going on, also ahead of what might be local elections. But of course, some of those local elections might be cancelled next year. We've also got on for the Tories, Kevin Hollinrake, who shadows Angela Rayner in the House of Commons. He used to be Shadow Business, now Shadow MHCLG. So I'm going to be asking him, given that the Labour Party has collapsed in the view of the public so precipitously, why are the Tories polling about the same as they did at the last general election as well? We've now got 3 parties milling about in the mid-20s. It's a very unpredictable political landscape. And also we'll be having the former Migration Minister, Tom Pursglove, on to look back at the year in politics.
And I wonder, an article we've been talking about all morning in the Mail today, could this possibly be Keir Starmer's first and last Christmas in Downing Street? You're talking there about this erratic, schizophrenic polling, the emergence of reform, potentially Musk's millions being thrown to the mix, people feeling very chagrined about the fact these elections could be pushed down the road. Politics very, very volatile. Could Keir Starmer just enjoy his one and only Christmas at Downing Street?
Well, never say never. And of course, a week's a long time. It feels like a day's a long time in politics at the moment.
It does at the moment.
But of course, Dan Hodges, who wrote that in the Mail on Sunday, he's got his ear to the ground in Westminster and has definitely picked up dissatisfaction amongst Labour MPs. Now, of course, just because some Labour MPs are discussing whether or not to remove Keir Starmer doesn't mean he'll be removed. I mean, he's got a huge majority in Parliament, and Labour PMs are stickier.
It's Labour's majority, not his.
But Labour PMs are stickier than Conservative PMs. We've seen the Tories are a very, very fratricidal, patricidal party. They're very happy to stab their leaders in the back and chuck them out. We've seen it time and time again, whether it's Margaret Thatcher or Ian Duncan Smith or David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss.
Yes, they went quickly.
I mean, you name it. But look what happened to Neil Kinnock. He was given 2 goes before he then voluntarily resigned himself. Tony Blair said he'd do 2 elections. He actually did 3. Gordon Brown was polling terribly and was never removed. That was an election that removed him. Ed Miliband, there was discussion about whether or not he would be removed in 2013, 2014. He stuck about.
Is that
Labour
loyalty
stick with their leaders.
Well, yes, but is that loyalty or foolishness?
Well, I think some of it is the Labour tradition, is how the party works. Of course, it's very easy in the Conservative Party to send your letters to Sir Graham Brady and then force a vote. The Labour Party doesn't have that system. There is no Sir Graham Brady of the Labour Party. So, yes, it's possible to exert pressure to force people out, but the formal mechanisms that exist within the Conservative Party aren't paralleled within the Labour Party.
And yet, you have to wonder, with the people that the Labour Party have seemed to single out and pick on, are very, very politically motivated and get out and vote. Waspy women, pensioners, winter fuel allowance, rural communities, 100 Labour MPs now thinking, I didn't sign up for this inheritance tax hike on farming. They're the most unpopular people in their constituencies. Could we see a rural revolt? Could we see pressure being put on MPs with a small majority, with a bigger number of pensioners who lost their winter fuel allowance? Lots of different angles of attack across a wide but shallow majority. There could be some bad news in the new year for Keir Starmer.
There certainly could be, and all of those groups that you mentioned that the government has certainly not been particularly kind towards or seen not to be, they're also deeply sympathetic groups. So whilst farmers are not great in number, people really appreciate farmers across the country, and it's the knock-on effect of that can really take place. But even if 100 Labour MPs are so irate they want to throw out a Prime Minister after winning a massive majority, I mean, that's less than a quarter of the parliamentary party of the Labour Party. It's hard to overstate just how many MPs they have, how fractured the vote became. And, I mean, the Labour Party got in with 411 seats, I think I'm right in saying. Now, the next largest party is the Tories on 121. That's the gulf we're looking at across the green benches.
Long way to go. That's the Camilla Tomney Show with Tom Holwood from 9:30 straight after breakfast. Tom, excellent. Thank you. Cheers.
Now, I think it's time for our poll of the day. So today's question is, do you agree with the government's new grocery tax in order to hit net zero targets? So far, 3% of you agree and 97% disagree.
Yeah, so I think the 3% of votes there, I don't know, from Ed Miliband, just going click, 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 click. Everybody else seems to be massively against it, and a small wonder, £1.6 billion inflation onto your groceries. This is packaging costs that retailers, manufacturers are being told to clamp down on. Of course, the costs will just be passed on straight to the consumers. Yeah. 56 quid per person per year on green levies. No wonder 97% you're finding it sticking in your craw.
And of course, that poll could change, the result could change during the day, so the final result will be announced later on in Nana Akwe's show. And if you want to know even more, just go to gbnews.com/poll.
Thank you very much. Now, this is our top story today. Following the devastating attack at a Christmas market in the German city of Magdeburg, the Saudi Arabian government are claiming that they repeatedly warned German authorities about the man suspected of driving a car into those crowds on Friday night.
The German media are reporting the man's identity as Taleb al-Abdelmozen, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor that Germany's interior minister says holds Islamophobic views.
And the suspect has been arrested and remains under investigation on suspicion of murder, attempted murder and also bodily harm.
200 people injured, we now know, 5 dead, including a 9-year-old girl. Germany is facing a Christmas mourning them all.
And meanwhile, Christmas market security is being reviewed back here in Britain. In London, the Metropolitan Police are warning the public to stay vigilant in the wake of Friday's attack.
Well, earlier on, we spoke to social policy analyst Rakib Essen.
People have argued that the background and the supposed ideology of the suspect is very different, or rather doesn't match up to his actions. And I question that. And the reason I do is because the suspect is known to be an anti-Islam atheist activist. And there's many people who seem to be suggesting that this was just a big plan which was hatched up in order to relocate to Germany. In fact, he's a hardened Islamist extremist. And I'll tell you why that theory doesn't add up. Because this Saudi refugee, the suspect, relocated to Germany back in 2006. He was granted refugee status in 2016. And are we seriously suggesting that he kept up this act all this time in order to carry out an Islamist terrorist attack as recently as this month? So I think that some of the theories that I've seen being peddled are incredibly suspect in my view.
And we have live pictures on our screen there from Magdeburg. That's floral tributes being laid down by locals, of course, as the entire country comes together in its mourning for those who've been lost and injured. But it's also worth pointing out, Rakib, that here is an individual that was wanted for deportation in Saudi Arabia. There are people coming forward claiming that they've been targeted by him. They are ex-Muslims. And the modus operandi, why would a person calling themselves an atheist, why would a person call themselves an anti-Islamist adopt the modus operandi that's precisely associated with the Islamic terror attacks? There are just a lot of people asking a lot of questions. Do you think we know the full picture yet?
Well, I think that from what has emerged, this suspect is an anti-Islam activist. In my view, he comes across as a militant atheist. And I think that if you look at his social media content, which is there for public consumption, he actually developed a hatred of Germany because he believed that Germany was responsible for the Islamification of Europe. Now, if you are a militant atheist, which looks to seek refuge and has been provided sanctuary in Europe, because you are an atheist and you originate from Saudi Arabia, but then you feel that the government, the people and the systems are ultimately responsible for the Islamification of Germany and the European continent at large. In my view, it is plausible that the suspect developed a hatred of Germany. So I think that what we have to look at here is when a refugee moves from the Middle East to Europe, if they develop fresh feelings of betrayal, rejection and persecution, why do they feel that way? And who or what do they hold responsible for having those feelings? Those are the questions that we should be asking.
But Rakib, a lot of people will be saying, there we go, a radical atheist. That's a new one on me.
Well, a lot of people have been in touch. Probably you've emailed in about this, the fact that, radical atheism, really? A lot of people are just still not convinced at all.
Yeah, there's a huge question to ask about this individual was wanted to be deported to Saudi Arabia, and yet the German authorities stepped in and protected him and prevented that because his human rights came first. And now here we are, and there's an election coming up in February. I wonder if all of this, Anne, will have a profound effect on the outcome of those elections.
It will do, won't it? It really will do. When are the elections?
In February.
Trouble is, he won't come to trial before then, will he?
No, but the memory will be very,
the memory
very
will
in the
be,
forefront
but
of
we
people's
won't know the
mind,
full
I'm sure.
facts. Well, of course, we may never know the full facts because he may never tell us why he did what he did.
OK, let's have a message of hope now, because during Advent, as we count down to Christmas Day, we're hearing from church ministers across the country. Each day they have a special message for you to celebrate the festive season, and here's today's.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 22.
Hi, I'm Chris Tufnell. I'm the vicar of Uterbridge Parish Church near Sheffield. At the end of the month, Buckingham Palace is going to publish the King's New Year Honours List. To get on that list, you have to do something really extraordinary, and it's often the result of a lifetime of work and achievement. Contrast that with how we'll honour each other on Christmas Day with the giving of presents, given not as a reward, but simply out of love. That second kind of honouring is what Christmas is all about. Jesus is the King who came at Christmas, not to honour extraordinary people for a lifetime of outstanding service, but to honour ordinary people, carpenters like Joseph, scared new mums like Mary, people working night shifts to try and make ends meet like the shepherds. He came to honour people like you and me. The Bible says, to those who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. That is the highest of honours, and it's on offer to you. Happy Christmas.
And you can see all of our special Advent messages as Christmas Day approaches by going to gbnews.com/Advent. And a very Merry Christmas to you.
Christmas is coming, isn't it? There's still plenty of time to grab a chance, though, to win our festive treat to you, which would really make your new year. An incredible 50 grand in tax-free cash. Here's how to take part in the competition.
There's just 3 sleeps till Christmas and all through the land. GB News has the chance to win a nifty 50 grand. That's cash for the new year. You could go on a spree. And the best thing about it, it's totally tax-free. From Santa with love, you could be our winner. Just enter right now or right after Christmas dinner. It's a cracker of a prize guaranteed to enthrall. From all of us at GB News, Merry Christmas to you all.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
After the Hollywood ending that Wrexham Football Club have got, can Chorley FC benefit from a bit of the old celebrity magic dust?
I can't see why not. The guys have been down a few times now, and when they do come down, obviously they're bringing that with them. A little town like Chorley doesn't see much of the charts and big stars, so it's really nice to see them, and we always welcome them when they do come down.
And Mark, give us a flavour of the level of football. I understand you're in the National League North, right? That's 6 rungs down from the top flight. I mean, you're only just down the road from Manchester City, right? But I mean, give us a flavour of the two different worlds between your club and Man City.
Our players are all part-timers. So we've got kind of fitness coaches, we've got teachers, we've got all kinds of players who have full-time jobs alongside playing. Our average crowd is probably a tenth of what you get at Man City, probably even less than that. We get about 1,500 on a home game. The thing is, we know where we are and we understand where we are, and we are a real community club. Tonight, I'm ready now. I'm off to Marine, so off over to Merseyside. Playing the likes of Liverpool and Everton over on Merseyside would be kind of a dream come true. But we know where we are. We would just love to get to the Football League. So teams like Salford, Stockport County were in our division a couple of years ago, all flying now in the Football League. We just want to do the same. We sat down with the board last year and they told us the vision for the future, and that vision most definitely is that we want to be a Football League club. When we went to the Premier League, I know the boys have been saying that they 30 years will be in the Premier League and winning it. Well, let's hope we are, and let's hope I'm still around to see that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, all we've been talking about all morning is pork pie, and we sent our East Midlands reporter Will Hollis to Melton Mowbray, the home of pork pie, to find out more.
In the rural capital of food, the festive season is big for business. Famed for Stilton cheese and the Melton Mowbray pork pie, sales rise dramatically before Christmas. Connor is the head chef at March House Farm near Melton.
I would describe a pork pie as the traditional farmhouse comfort food. To me, the beauty of this pork pie is it's a labour of love. So here you won't see any added nasties, there's no preservatives.
A Melton Mowbray pork pie follows a strict recipe and can only be made locally. Hand-raised using ingredients from the farm, the team are preparing hundreds ahead of the big day. And not just for customers.
Not only do I enjoy making pork pies, I also enjoy eating pork pies.
Crunchy pastry and a jelly filling, Melton Mowbray pork pies are eaten every day across Britain. But in Leicestershire and the wider East Midlands, families wake up on Christmas Day and tuck into a pork pie for breakfast. Jo is manager at the farm.
We're going to be really busy, but we'll make sure we get those pork pies sorted for you.
It's been in her family for generations.
It's very popular throughout the year, but leading up to Christmas, hundreds and hundreds of pork pies will fly out of here. It might seem odd to other people, but to have a pork pie on Christmas morning is certainly worth it.
Pork pies became popular in the 1700s during hunting season. Matthew O'Callaghan from the Melton Mowbray Pork Pie Association has fought to protect the local delicacy. And for good reason. Rural foods like Stilton and the Mowbray pie add £100 million to the local economy.
People are going for a premium product, and they know that they're going to be paying that little bit more for Melton Mowbray pork pie. And if you want the best, you have to pay for the best.
Melton Mowbray pork pies are loved around the world, and there are some fans here too.
Well, this time of year is just right for pork pies.
It's fantastic, pork pie. I do love pork pie.
They look nice on your table for Christmas, and they match the aesthetic, but they're not very nice, and I wouldn't eat them.
While not everyone enjoys a slice of pork pie, for many it's top of their Christmas list. The first thing they think about.
Christmas morning, grab your pork pie, tuck in.
Will Hollis, GB News, Melton Mowbray.
What finer way to end our last Sunday morning programme before Christmas. Do have a happy one, won't you? Coming up next, it's the Camilla Tominey Show, but today it's with Tom Harwood, and we are munching into some really fabulous pork pies.
Cheers.
Absolutely. This ends 30 years of vegetarianism. Mm.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. Well, as we look ahead towards Christmas, after a very windy and cold feeling day today, actually the weather does turn milder as we approach Christmas Day itself, but with plenty of cloud too. Back to the here and now for Sunday. It's going to be a very windy day, as I mentioned, across many parts, but especially so for many northern and western areas. Warnings are in force from the Met Office right throughout the day, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, it's really going to be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers across many parts. Showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground in the north, and that strength of the wind really is going to make things feel bitterly cold. On the thermometer, we could see highs reaching around 7 to 9, but certainly feeling sub-zero, especially for parts of Scotland. So as we end the day, still some further showers moving in across many parts of Scotland. The sleet and snow across the high ground could just give a little bit of ice in places. Maybe fewer showers for